Thank you. It looks as if we've got all of the members back on, and we were even joined by, it looks like Senator Cannizzaro has an assistant with her as well to help her finish this meeting out. And we can get started with our next item under one of the items under E, agenda item E, and that is item 45, that's E45. And that is the Department of Health and Human Services, Welfare and Supportive Services. And on that work program, we've got Deputy Administrator Thompson and Program Chief Wortman Meshberger. And so if Mr. Thompson or Ms. Wortman Meshberger are ready to go, we can get started with that item.
Yes, we are ready. Good afternoon. For the record, I'm Robert Thompson, Deputy Administrator for the Division of Welfare and Supportive Services. I have on the line with me Maria Wortman Meshberger, our Social Services Chief, who is the division's subject matter expert in the area of energy assistance, including the new low-income household water assistance program. The American Recovery Act Plan of 2021 approved a new needs-based program to assist low-income households with water and sewer bills. This program will mirror our current energy assistance program, targeting the same households with similar eligibility requirements for providing assistance with water and sewer charges, in addition to the current program, which assists with heating and cooling costs. With your approval, Division plans to implement this program by March of 2022. We are still working through the state plan with our federal partners, but the March 2022 timeline is our current target, with all funds being utilized by September 30th, 2023, when the program funding sunsets. Ms. Wortman Meshberger and I would now welcome any questions.
All right, thank you, Mr. Thompson. And I think the first question comes from Assemblywoman Peters.
Thank you, Chair. I was wondering if you could give us a little bit more description of the time frame for developing plan, the design and implementation of this program.
Maria, would you like to take that, being heavily involved in the timelining?
Good afternoon, Maria Wortman Meshberger for the record. So we were required to submit a state plan for the program, and we submitted the first one on August 20th of this year. We got questions back from the federal government. We submitted a revised plan on September 24th. We are still waiting approval from the federal government. And we are making some system changes, and we believe that the March 2022 date is when we can begin the program and start issuing benefits.
Thank you. Ms. Assemblyman Watts, did you have a question, a follow-up on that? And then I have Senator Gocochea.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I think my question was answered, which was I just wanted to get some clarity on when the program was anticipated to be operational and able to provide benefits. And it sounds like the current target for that is in March. So I think that answered my question. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Assemblyman. And next up, I have Senator Gocochea and then Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just because I haven't really looked at it this close, but does this include rural, say, domestic wells and one-person septics?
Maria Wortman Meshberger, for the record, the federal regulation does not allow for private to pay for private wells and things like that. The benefits must be issued to public water and sewer vendors.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator. And I have Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson up next.
Thank you, Chair Brooks. So it looks like the way this is going to be set up is you're going to do a modification to the low-income energy assistant application to allow people to apply for the energy assistance and then the water assistance in one process. Is that right?
Maria Wortman-Meshberger for the record. That is correct. We are working now to modify our application to allow individuals to apply for both programs at the same time.
That's great, because then it's just one application, so they can check one box or two boxes as the need is there. Do you imagine that there will be the same eligibility requirements? So for example, if you're applying for the low-income energy assistance program, you have to submit your lease to show that you are in the residence there. So that requirement would be one that would carry over for the water assistance as well? Or would it just be, you imagine submitting the water bill in the person's name?
Maria Wortman-Meshberger for the record. So we have requested that the eligibility requirements fall in as close as possible with the energy assistance requirements. So yes, you are correct. But we would allow, if someone applied for both programs, they wouldn't have to provide it twice. And also with this program, if they are eligible for the energy assistance program, they will be categorically eligible for the water program.
Okay, so by that category eligibility, then they don't even need to say that they are asking for that. If they qualify for one, they'll qualify for the other. So then the people, the helpers who are helping them to complete these applications would just have to explain that you'll get both benefits. You'll see both of those play out without even having to do additional eligibility requirements on it. That's great. I can't wait for this. You said March 2020?
2022.
March 2022. Okay, we'll look forward to those applications hitting the street. Thanks.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. And I have a question up next from Assemblywoman Miller.
Thank you, Chair Brooks. And my question is in regards specifically to, I'm just making sure my volume's up, specifically to the water subsidy program. In the case of people that live in apartments, so they're renting, they live in an apartment, some apartments offer where you have your own individual meter, some the water bill is just absorbed into your rent, some you pay a separate flat rate each month. And then there's that concept of shared water where you're sharing it with your entire building or a portion of the complex, multiple units sharing it. And it includes everything such as the pool and the landscaping and everyone's personal water use. So in cases of individuals who are renting and they're in that situation where they're in a shared water capacity, because often that can fluctuate each month for that renter, are they able to access this support as well?
Maria Wortman-Meshberger for the record. So we tried to get as many allow the program to serve as many eligible renters as possible. So when their utilities are in the landlord's name, however they do receive a separate bill, we are going to have it very similar to the energy assistance program, where the landlord would just need to say that we can pay on the account for that individual, and then we would be able to determine benefits. So in many cases, we will be able to help renters. One big difference in this program is that we do have to pay the vendor directly versus the energy assistance program, which does allow us to pay a recipient.
Okay, I do have some slight about giving, the ability to access this program based on the owner or the management company in some cases, especially if individual renters are actually the one responsible for the bill. But I do appreciate the efforts and the approach, the attempt for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. Do we have any other questions on this particular work program from any of the members? All right. I do. Assemblywoman Titus.
I'm sorry for the late hander, Senator. Thank you for the question, Mr. Chair. According to what we have been submitted, there was 2,200 average monthly households for 2022. So is that the same amount that we're looking that's going to get the water assistance program, and just 2,200, 2,230 households averaging? Is that the same amount you're saying will receive this benefit?
Maria Wortman-Meshberger for the record. We do believe that it will be similar to our energy assistance program caseload.
Right, so
because of the eligibility requirements.
Okay, so are there waiting lists on that? It seems like that's an incredibly low number to me. That's what you're helping, and it's going to be the same people that already receive the energy assistance are going to be able to get the water assistance. I'm just worried that there's a lot of people left out on that program, number one, and that's my first question. Then I have a follow-up question as far as how do other folks access that?
This is Maria Wortman-Meshberger for the record. Our current projections for fiscal year 22 energy assistance is 22,255 cases. So we expect our caseload will be similar. They do not need to receive energy assistance to be eligible for the water assistance program. We, for outreach efforts, we do plan to work with the water and sewer companies to get the information out to all customers that would qualify.
Oh, a follow-up question, Mr. Chair. I'm just curious about the process here, because you mentioned that in the past it had to be paid to the electric company, and this will be paid directly to the recipient, or is that the reverse? Are you actually paying this to the water companies?
Maria Wortman-Meshberger for the record. We will be paying directly to the water companies. On the energy assistance side, we do pay a majority of our payments to the energy companies as well. However, one flexibility that unfortunately is not in the water program is that we can't pay to recipients where we can in energy assistance.
So this won't help them get bottled water or any of those type of things. It's just for their water bill for their homes that they live in, and maybe their sewer bills, those type of things.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Are you making? So I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, if I might just follow through with that question. Are you making any? Did you reach out to the water companies and ask, as people may or may not know about this program? Do they reach out to you, or would they be able to reach out to you? Say they have a recipient or a receiver to lose their water because they haven't paid for 5 or 6 months. Is there any way that so you could reach out to them and say, hey, there's a program, or let the water company know to send that in their next bill? Say, hey, if you have difficulty paying your bill, there is a state program. Are you doing any joint ventures like that?
Maria Wortman-Meshberger for the record. To be able to pay the water and sewer companies, we will have to have vendor agreements. And so we will have vendor agreements with the companies. And we have, in August, before we completed our state plan, we had a meeting we invited as many water and sewer companies that we knew to come, and quite a few did and asked us questions. And so I do have an email list, and we are in discussions about that. And this program will have an arrearage assistance component as well for those folks that do have back bills.
Great. Thank you for that. And thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. Do we have any other questions from the committee on this particular work program item? Senator Gocochea.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for recognizing me the second time. A little slow this afternoon. But now, do city and county water companies qualify?
Maria Wortman-Meshberger for the record. Yes, they do.
All right, thank you. Most of the rurals are covered by a municipal water company. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Any other questions? All right, I do not see any. So without any other questions, I would take a motion to approve this item.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
I have a motion from Vice Chair Carlton,
Okay.
a second from Senator Dennis. All in favor, please raise your hand. All right, thank you. All opposed, please raise your hand. I do not see any opposed, so this motion passes with the majority of the members present. We are just missing a couple members. Senator Settlemeyer and Assemblyman Hafen haven't made it back yet, had to step away, or haven't come back from lunch yet, and just want to make that note for the record. And we can move on to our next item. And our next item is, and thank you very much for coming today and helping us with that item, Mr. Thompson and Ms. Wortman-Meshberger. I really appreciate it. And we can move on to item 62. And item 62 is from the Department of Employment, Training, and Rehabilitation and the Governor's Office of Workforce Innovation in that. And with us today on these next couple of items is Director Caparetta. We have Mr. Sewell, Ms. Castleman, Mr. Markovecka, Ms. Harvin, and Mr. Ellis and Mr. Jordan to assist us if it need be. And so if on 62, you want to go ahead and get started and explain that work program to us, please, I appreciate it.
Good afternoon. This is Director Elisa Cafaretta with the Department of Employment, Training, and Rehabilitation. And we're also joined by Isla Young, who is the Executive Director of the Governor's Office of Workforce Innovation. And she will be presenting this agenda item, and we're available to answer questions.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Director Cafaretta. For the record, my name is Isla Young. I am the Executive Director of the Governor's Office of Workforce Innovation. I'll just give a quick overview of the grant. This particular grant is from the Department of Labor. It is Accelerating Nevada Apprenticeships for All. We're calling it Project Anna. The purpose of the Accelerating Nevada Apprenticeships for All grant is to create new and expand existing registered apprenticeship programs to connect underrepresented individuals, many of whom were affected greatly by the pandemic, to career pathways in high demand sectors as a means of strengthening the skilled workforce pipeline and meeting employers' needs, aligning educational and economic development outcomes, and increasing economic security for Nevadans. The Goen office was awarded this 4-year grant, just shy of $4 million, and we will be working to provide assistance to 500 individuals who identify as women, people of color, individuals with disabilities, and our veterans. And the focus areas with this grant is healthcare, information technology, and advanced manufacturing. Just real quickly, the project goals, there are 4: to develop, expand, diversify, and modernize the registered apprenticeship programs in healthcare and information technology and manufacturing, strengthen partnerships and align our career and technical education programs to expand the registered apprenticeship programs to underrepresented populations. We plan to increase the number of apprentices enrolled in registered apprentice programs from underrepresented populations, as well as those that were really adversely affected by the pandemic. And looking at introducing some innovative registered apprenticeship program expansion efforts around some online opportunities and virtual reality opportunities. Just real quickly, the program activities, we will be working, of course, as I've mentioned, to strengthen the infrastructure, to provide some related technical instruction by using grant funds to support pre-apprentices or apprenticeship readiness programs and apprentices. And we've got $4,000 in tuition assistance per apprentice. And that totals about $2 million of this grant specifically for tuition. We plan on reimbursing employers for on-the-job training. That'll be up to $2,100 per apprentice, and that's a little over $500,000. We're going to be modifying some of the existing registered apprenticeship classroom-based instruction so that it can be offered virtually to increase access to rural populations and explore ways to leverage ongoing efforts to offer training programs using virtual reality. There is about $20,000 set aside for that. And planning to engage employers, which is the biggest part of this, to become involved and help build capacity with them. And we'll be working with navigators and intermediaries to leverage some of the existing partnerships and to develop new ones, making sure we're able to enroll some of the youth, women, people of color, veterans, and persons with disabilities into these programs. So the partners for this grant, Bowen serves as the program lead for this work. We are working in partnership with INGE, that is with Caleb Cage, Craig von Collenberg, and Cheryl Olson, who serves as the apprenticeship director and navigator for the INGE system. Dieter with Linda Parvin and Carlene Johnson. We're working with the Nevada Department of Education, in particular with the CPE programs with Craig Satuki. The College of Southern Nevada is one of our main providers of RTI, and that is, of course, with Dr. Zaragoza and Mr. Frank Woodbeck. We are working with the City of Las Vegas with their new West Side Training Center, which will provide access to quite a few people that are eligible for the program. And we have about 12 companies so far that have signed up, healthcare and IT, to participate and open their doors to apprentices. So I am happy to answer any questions, but that is the general overview of the grant.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I have several questions. I want to just start with one, and then I'll turn it over to some of the other members and see if some of my questions get answered. But you had mentioned the on-the-job training and reimbursement for employers. How would that necessarily work when in a situation where the majority of folks enlisted in a registered apprenticeship program in our state are operating under a collective bargaining agreement that really defines how the compensation is and what the contribution is of that employer for that apprentice? How would on-the-job reimbursement for on-the-job training work in that particular situation?
Thank you, Chair Brooks, for the question. Isla Young for the record. We actually are going to also have an intermediary that will be brought on, Chair Brooks, that is an expert in working with the companies around that reimbursement and making sure all of the requirements by law are met. So I honestly would need to get more information to get into the further details with that, and I'm happy to do that. But we will be working with experts in that to make sure that the employer, whoever is working with the actual apprentice, and the breakout of how they're going to define the job training and the amount of time and the pay is all worked out properly. But I can get more details for you.
Thank you. And I know we have several questions, and I'll start with Senator Dennis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think you kind of addressed the first question that I have. You talked about partnering with other entities and businesses. I just kind of wanted to, and you kind of described that, but can you give us a little bit more detail on how you're going to create those partnerships to create these new registered apprenticeship programs?
Absolutely. Thank you, Senator Dennis, for the question. For the record, this is Isla Young. I will say, Senator Dennis, that the partnership building is the key magic sauce with apprenticeship development. And one of the most important pieces is creating a very inclusive environment where our employers, our higher education, our trainers, our community partners, that they all feel like they can have a seat at the table in this process. So one of the things that has happened in the state is there is quite a hunger for apprenticeship programs, and in particular, aligning these with our high growth, high demand areas in the state. So as we're looking at diversifying our economy and helping our workforce get into some really exciting career paths, being able to help our partners understand the value of apprenticeship programs and how they might actually utilize it for their companies is incredibly important. So one of the biggest pieces with partnership development that we have been utilizing is actually partnering with the NSHE system. The community colleges throughout the state are providing very robust training programs, and that has allowed us to help our companies understand how that aligns with the types of skills and pathways that should be available within their companies. One of the other pieces too is building the capacity within these companies and our partners to understand how to develop a very high quality apprenticeship program. We are absolutely mirroring and modeling the union's golden standard of apprenticeship programs, and that has since expanded into other approaches. You know, you can have competency-based, hybrid models, and of course the traditional time-based apprenticeship programs. But a lot of it is educating our partners, helping them understand how this will benefit our state in general, and then really empowering our workforce to have access to some really high quality career paths.
Thank you. And you started to, I think, allude to this next question that I have. Has to do with your use of the term modernizing. You talked about modernizing your registered apprenticeship programs. What does that really mean, modernize? I mean, because we know how the programs, what are you changing that's going to make it more modern?
Well, I think, thank you, Senator Dennis, for the question. Isla Young for the record. When I say modernizing, I really mean we're just aligning with some of the new and the growth and the high growth areas of focus for the state. So all of the work that we're doing in identifying the proper types of non-construction apprenticeship programming is done in conjunction with the Governor's Office of Economic Development. So we work with Mr. Boz Potts, Deputy Director there, to really understand where we are as a state. And then we're also working very closely with the Department of Labor. And when I say modernizing, this is coming from their office. The Department of Labor, National Governors Association, the Urban Institute, Jobs for the Future, JFF, all of these national organizations are really working hard to help build out the best practices around these new types of apprenticeship programs. For many, many years, the union-based, construction-based apprenticeship programs, it is the golden standard. So anytime that you're shifting into some of these new areas, you have to make sure they're just as high quality as the other options. And that is where I'm coming from when we say modernizing.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator. And I believe that Vice Chair Carlton has a few questions as well. Vice Chair Carlton, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. So I guess I'm a little bit confused, and I'll ask a few questions first to get started. So we moved the jurisdiction for apprenticeships back over to the Apprenticeship Council and the Labor Commissioner, AB 459. So I'm just wondering why Owen is wanting permission to use money from a grant to do apprenticeships when we gave jurisdiction of the apprenticeship programs back to the Apprenticeship Council where we believed it belonged. Second part of that question is, it sounds to me like these aren't the true apprenticeship programs either. So I guess that first question is the key for me, because I thought we were pretty clear that apprenticeship issues were to be dealt with in the Labor Commissioner's office through the Apprenticeship Council moving forward.
Thank you, Vice Chair Carlton, for the question. Isla Young for the record. You are absolutely right. The SAC and our State Director of Apprenticeship Programming, Rich Williams, did move back to the Labor Commissioner's office. What that means, though, and this grant was actually awarded prior to that happening. So all of the approvals, all of the reviews, all of the making sure the standards are there, that will continue as it always has with the SAC and with State Director Richard Williams. The actual creation of apprenticeship programs is really a statewide effort with multiple partners from across the state participating in the development of these programs. It takes quite a few people to
Ms.
come
Young,
together.
Ms. Young, Ms. Young, I know you love your program and you want to talk about it a lot, but it's getting later in the afternoon. But we moved the apprenticeships back over. So this program should have been picked up. Owen no longer has jurisdiction over apprenticeships. This should be picked up and moved right along with it. Apprenticeships now belong with the Apprenticeship Council, not with the Department of Economic Development and not with the community college system. It belongs with the Apprenticeship Council. So I want to understand why this wasn't moved along with all the other responsibilities. Because I thought 459 was pretty clear.
Vice Chair Carlson, thank you for the question. Isla Young for the record. Yes, it is very clear. There is absolutely no question that the labor commissioners and the state apprenticeship director are, that's where apprenticeships lie, but there's still program development that needs to happen for apprenticeship programs. So this grant was awarded prior to that, and when a federal grant is approved and given to an agency, it is not allowed to be moved to another agency. We actually did have conversations with the Department of Labor specifically around this, just to have clarity and make sure that we're all on the same page. And
I'm looking through my notes and I don't see the date that it was awarded. So when was this awarded?
This was awarded. Gosh, I don't have that in front of me, Vice Chair Carlson, but I can find it. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was April of this year.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, I have some serious concerns. I haven't heard anything about Owen partnering with the Apprenticeship Council or the Labor Commissioner. Other agencies were mentioned, but those were not mentioned in any of the comments. And the last thing we want to do is put any of our registered apprenticeship programs at risk for not staying in compliance and allowing it to happen in an area where it really shouldn't be happening. So I have some concerns that not everyone who could be affected by this has been part of the conversation. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Vice Chair, as do I. And I'll follow up with that. And then, but I also was looking at the budget as it's been, broke down in the documents that were sent over. It's we're talking about, and please interrupt me at any point, Ms. Young, if I'm incorrect in my assumptions here from what I'm reading in the documents, but is it a $4 million program? Is that correct? Or a $4 million grant?
Just shy of that.
Okay, and so yeah, so just under $4 million, $2 shy of that, and they couldn't have just rounded it up, right? And
No, they didn't.
And so of that, I see that Owen internal administrative costs and contractors for the implementation and administration of the program equals about over 1.3 million of the 4 million. And it just seems super heavy on the administrative side, if I'm interpreting that correctly. If I'm not interpreting that correctly, please correct me. But it seems like of direct payments and support to apprentices, pre-apprentices, as well as employers, That is about 2.5 million of the 4 million. And so is that correct? And if so, help me understand why it's kind of skewed so heavily towards creating new things as opposed to supporting the ones that with the mission of the grant, supporting some of the apprenticeship programs that currently exist.
Chair Brooks, if you don't mind, I have my fiscal lead and Sarah Martino. She's my senior program administrator and officer that has joined us. Is it okay if she helps me with those answers?
Thank you.
And Sarah?
Yes, thank you. Hi, this is for the record, and Sarah Martino with Goen, senior program administrator / officer. And you're correct, Senator Brooks. The approximate numbers that you provided, about 1.5 million for the support staff with an INSHE, Goen, NDE, and also there's a small amount for curriculum development. And then you're also correct about the tuition and stipends to employers is about 2.5 million.
Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that. I appreciate that. I have several questions, and so I'm kind of struggling with whether we get to all of them today. But I know that Senator Dondero-Loop had a question around compliance. And so if Senator Dondero-Loop, if you wanted to go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I really appreciate the time. We've sort of bounced around some of this, but would you please clarify the compliance of that newly created apprenticeship program and tell us, what the federal U.S. Department of Labor standards for that registered apprenticeship programs? Will you just kind of clarify that piece for us?
Absolutely. Thank you, Senator. Ida Young for the record. There is any apprenticeship program that is approved in the state has to go through the apprenticeship director, Rich Williams, and also through the SAC. So nothing that is proposed and approved doesn't go through them. They are the gatekeepers and the ones that verify and make sure that everything that is built in to these apprenticeship programs meets the required standards. And that would include the correct amount of related technical instruction, the RTI. That would make sure that there is an actual program sponsor for the apprenticeship program. You need to make sure that the standards that have been pulled together meet the requirements. And then also just making sure the wages are correct and that they're paying a livable wage, that the wages are stackable and will increase as the person goes through the apprenticeship program, and that they're meeting all of the components and making sure that they can demonstrate that the acquired skills that they have meet that threshold of excellence. So there's very defined rules with apprenticeship programming, and that applies to whether it's a traditional time-based program. You might have a hybrid approach, which we haven't really been doing here in Nevada, but we have been doing the competency approach, which involves successful demonstration of acquired skills and knowledge by an apprentice as verified by the program sponsor with an on-the-job learning component and related technical instruction. And what happens is when all of that is met and the program is approved, the SAC then does have a check-in with these programs to make sure that they are continuing to provide excellence and everything being offered is up to the requirements.
Thank you very much for that information. It's really important that we have standards, especially when we're receiving federal fund monies, and the apprenticeship program is so important. So thank you very much for that information. Appreciate your time.
Mr. Chairman, I think you did.
Do we have any other questions from the committee on this particular work program? If not, I have a few more myself. And so I don't want to belabor the point, but I think that me and Vice Chair Carlton are kind of on the same page as far as some of our concerns. It sounds as if, you know, a lot of this is about timing. So to get this this grant award, what was submitted to the Department of Labor as far as what was basically the plan that you're proposing in the expenditure of this grant, acceptance and expenditure of it. Is this the exact plan that you would submit it to the Department of Labor to get this grant?
Yes, Chair Brooks. Ila Young for the record. This is exactly what was submitted.
And so when was that submitted?
It was probably, oh, I'm sorry. Ila Young for the record. It was submitted, forgive me. And Sarah, do you remember the time frame? If I'm not mistaken, Chair Brooks, it was maybe October of 20? Does that sound right, Ann Sarah? Could you help me here?
Hi, yes, for the record, this is Ann Sarah Martino. I believe it was submitted in March of this year. Oh, I apologize. Yes, it would be March, if I'm not mistaken.
So March of 2021, this year.
Of 2021.
Okay, great, thank you. And then when was the approval?
I believe DOL was reviewing the applications in April and May, and I believe we got the notice, sorry, and Sarah Martino again for the record, and I believe that we got the notice in June that the grant would start effective July 1st.
Okay, all right. Yeah, so that kind of just is, I think, where some of my concern and you know, there was a very clear effort, Vice Chair Carlton referenced an assembly bill, and there were several conversations throughout the entire legislative session and last IFC on Owen and apprenticeships, not Owen as an agency and all the fine work that they do, but how it pertains to apprenticeships, what is an apprenticeship, and what the role of the Apprenticeship Council and the Department of Labor, Nevada Department of Labor, have in those apprenticeships. And it just seems as if, you know, that bill was out there. We were having hearings on it, and I think that the future probably should have been pretty cut clear to the agency on the direction that we were headed. And so now what this does is this just creates more another layer of what we tried to eliminate, and that's to me that's concerning, and it's based on just kind of like, you know, the calendar being off by a few weeks, it sounds like, and on how when the application was made to the Department of Labor. So I really, yes, go ahead.
Chairman Brooks, this is Director Elisa Caffaretta. I just, in light of some of the questions, I wanted to take just a tiny step back and provide a little bit of additional background information to the committee about AB 459. We have, so in that bill, yes, Goen came to Dieter, and at the same time, the apprenticeship program, the state apprenticeship director, and the apprenticeship council were returned to the labor commissioner at business and industry. That was the legislation that was passed. Since that time, we have come to you and the Board of Examiners. We've sort of have a standing date with you all. And we have signed a memorandum of understanding, and we have transferred funds and the personnel, those positions and those budgets for the state apprenticeship program to business and industry. So just as was outlined in the legislation, we have some fine tuning to do on that as we've gotten everyone settled. We've identified a few additional costs that we didn't cover in our first MOU. So that will be coming forward to finalize that transition. And in the future, in business and industry, you'll see the apprenticeship program in their budget requests. So the way sometimes when we're answering your questions, we don't know how much to abbreviate and how much detail to provide. We have had several ongoing and continue to have ongoing conversations between DETR and business and industry in terms of there are several apprenticeship expansion type grants that were applied for over the last couple of years. They have some components that squarely fall into the administration and approval of apprenticeship programs. Those funds were doing sub-grants to move that money to business and industry, and we can sort of give you an inventory of that if you're interested. The piece that remains, that we've sort of agreed on a go-forward basis that would remain with GoIn is the sort of development piece. So the way I sort of describe this is that the state apprenticeship director and the state apprenticeship council are sort of the good housekeeping seal of approval or the accreditation body, or they're the ones who go through the process and decide if an apprenticeship is official and it meets the criteria that are in state and federal law. That authority moved, that is at business and industry with the labor commissioner. But at the same time, it's sort of like licensing a med school or something. At the same time, or licensing doctors, but at the same time, other programs can sort of develop training for doctors or nurses, training for apprentices, and that's the piece that's sort of the future of developing our workforce and creating training opportunities that have work-based components where we need some partnerships in these collaborations that have been described to sort of really look into the future and create training programs that meet those criteria that are still the same, so we can make sure we're training folks for new jobs that didn't exist before. So I just wanted to make sure you had some background on the fact that we are in ongoing conversations with the labor commissioner. That started as soon as the legislation was proposed, honestly, and that is ongoing, and we can give you an inventory of those agreements and the way the funds have been moved to implement AB 459 if you would like that.
Thank you, Director. That was incredibly helpful, and the context was needed, and I appreciate that. And that kind of helps me understand a little bit. The analogy is, I think, helpful. But I'm trying to imagine an apprenticeship that charges a tuition and how tuition assistance is helpful. And so, I just think that there is maybe a philosophical disconnect amongst some what the apprenticeship is and what it isn't. And I think that maybe we're using that term interchangeably in cases where maybe we shouldn't. But this is helpful that you've given me that context. Another question that I have is what's the geographic distribution? As you've heard me a million times say before, and I will continue to say as long as I'm in this job, what is the geographic or population distribution of the proposed distribution of these funds?
Thank you, Chair Brooks, for the question. Isla Young for the record. And if I might just clarify, Chair Brooks, you just mentioned about tuition. The tuition is covered. It is not, there's no fees allowed with apprenticeship programming. So everything that the apprentices will need, there's support dollars built in for that. And then as far as the geographic focus of this grant. It actually is Southern Nevada. And because of the realities of how hard the southern region has been hit, that is definitely the focus area of this particular grant.
Thank you. And so back to tuition. So you're saying it's tuition support, so I don't believe apprentices pay tuition. I think that's the whole kind of concept around apprenticeship. And so what is this tuition support that this particular line item, the most significant line item that in the program, what is that intended to do?
Thank you, Chair Brooks. Isla Young for the record. That tuition support specifically is to pay the tuition of the apprentice as they're going through the related technical instruction that is required with their apprentice program. So there's no money coming out of the apprentice's pocket. That $2 million that has been set aside will help with training courses at CSN. However, these training program, apprenticeship programs are shaped, that money will be used to pay for the cost of it. It will not come from the apprentice. That's not allowed.
I'm just kind of like completely confused and dumbfounded, and I apologize, and I don't want to monopolize the committee's time because I have a million questions. So what's the expiration date on this money?
It is Isla Young for the record. It is a 4-year grant, Chair Brooks, and I believe it ends in 25.
Okay, thank you. I just want to see if we have any other questions before I pose a motion. Do we have any questions from the committee of either?
Mr. Chairman, it's not a question. It's more of a comment, if I may. Assemblywoman Carlton.
Yeah, please do. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. You know, we've had a lot of confusion over the years on what the definition of an actual apprenticeship is. The more I've heard, the more this sounds like a work study type thing. I don't believe in any other apprenticeship program that I've had exposure to in Southern Nevada that the contractors who hire the folks actually get paid to hire the folks. They usually just hire them because they're working a 40-hour-a-week job. I mean, you went through an apprenticeship program. So, and the tuition component gives me some concerns. I'd like some more time to think about this, get some answers from some folks. This may be the direction we want to go, but there's too many unanswered questions for me at this time. So thank you very much for allowing me to make a comment.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Any other comments or questions from the committee? Seeing none. Well, I don't feel comfortable moving forward right now. I have just far too many questions, and I would like to have a conversation with Vice Chair Carlton, whoever else would like to be part of that conversation. Owen, Dieter, the Apprenticeship Council, and the Department of Labor, the Nevada Department of Labor, to really get an understanding. This does not sound like an apprenticeship program. And so if that's the case, and this is different, then and that's fine. And it sounds like there's a tremendous amount of value that could be achieved here with this. It's just, I'm just really having a hard time with our using of some of the terminology and some of the jurisdictions that should be included. And so I would love to have those conversations. And since there doesn't seem to be a expiration date that is pending on the monies, I would move that, or I would look for a motion to not approve this item and to bring it back after those conversations to the next IFC. Before I look for that motion, is that even a real thing Mr. Thorley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, so the committee, this work program was submitted under the 45-day work program process. So if the committee takes no action after 45 days, it would it's deemed approved under the statute. So if the committee does not want to approve it, it would need to take a motion to not approve it.
And Mr. Thorley, if we take the motion to not approve it, they can resubmit it after conversations are had. Is that correct?
Absolutely. It could always be resubmitted at a later date.
Okay, great. That seems to be the motion that I would like to hear, but if I have anyone that would like to make that motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy to move for not approval of this work program at this time.
All right, I have a motion from Vice Chair Carlton.
Second.
I have a second from Senator Dennis. Do I have any discussion from the members on that motion?
Senator Dennis, can I ask a quick question?
Please.
So there's no, I just want to make sure that there's no time or anything like that issue, that if we delay this, that they're going to like lose the grant or anything like that. I want to make sure that that's clear.
And if Young or Ms. Director Cafaretta or anyone else is able to answer that question before we take a vote on that motion.
Sure. Chair Brooks, Isla Young for the record. Yes, any delay with a particular grant is, there is defined goals and outcomes and timelines. So any delay is never a good thing. But if that is the wish of you, then we will do that.
Okay, so there's no chance of losing the thing if we delay, right? That was what I needed clarification on.
Senator Dennis, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
So please go ahead and answer that if you can.
Oh, okay. Isla Young for the record. I honestly do not think that we will lose the grant, but we will just keep them informed as to that it is being postponed as far as the approval to actually begin work.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Now, Assemblywoman Titus, did you have a comment?
Yes, I think, thank you, Mr. Chair. Sorry for the interruption. I just need a clarification. According to the information that we were given, it was to help support tuition for 500 apprentices. Are these 500 apprentices or pre-apprentices, are they already, do you have a list of those folks? Are these folks anticipating getting involved right away and this delay will affect them? And I'm just, what the impact is on individuals that maybe are expecting this to be passed and looking forward to it. And we have 500 people lined up already?
Isla Young for the record, thank you for your question. We have all the partners lined up and we are ready to move into next steps. I do not have the 500 lined up yet, but don't anticipate having an issue with that at all.
You mean finding the 500, or are we disappointing these employees who need to get people? I see everywhere I go, I see signs that people are hiring. I'm just wondering, by delaying this, are we going to further exacerbate this folks who need to get people on the roll, get them hired, or at least get them trained?
Thank you for the question, Isla Young for the record. Yes, it will delay implementation of the grant if we do not have approval. And that does impact, of course, the ability for us to help the workforce as we're getting folks back to work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. Any other discussion on the motion? All right, I see none. So if you could please, in favor of the motion, and the motion is to recap, to not approve, have further discussions and bring it back at a later IFC after those discussions. And so all in favor of that motion, please raise your hand. And all in, okay, thank you. And all in opposition of the motion, please raise your hand. I have Assemblyman Roberts, Assemblyman Hafen, Assemblyman Levitt. I have Assemblywoman Titus, and I believe that is it. Did I miss anyone? Okay, I think that is it. So the motion passes with the members present, and we will see this at a later date. Thank you very much. And we can move on now to our next item, which is item 63, which is also from the Department of Employment Training and Rehabilitation, and it's from the Employment Security Special Fund. And so Director Caparetta, could you or someone from your team walk us through this?
Thank you, Elisa Cafaretta with the Department of Employment Training and Rehabilitation. And Troy Jordan, our Senior Counsel, will give you the high-level overview of this, and we'll be happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Director. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item 63 is essentially a contractual obligation that Dieter and specifically the Employment Security Division incurred while we were extending the Bank of America debit card contract. To give you historical context, we'd had Bank of America for approximately 5 years. In 2020, in September, right in the middle of the pandemic, they announced that they would not be signing the extension that we believed we had negotiated for 2 years. They said at one point, we'll have it reviewed by legal and we'll get back to you. At some point between the time that the sign up was submitted and September, Bank of America decided to get out of the prepaid debit card business in total. And Nevada was one of the first states where this occurred because our contract was up in December. To get through the time period between September and to our new debit card vendor in July, we had to sign an emergency extension, which I believe now is passed through the Board of Examiners along with another amendment and what we now call the GFC agreement, which is the payment agreement, which we would absorb these costs. There are costs that the bank normally incurred during their debit card program. They're related to their global financial crimes unit, in which they freeze a card that they believe may have suspicious activity or other disqualifying factors to it that the bank cannot process it. During that investigation that the bank does, they're required by banking regulation, at least as I am told, to extend that person a line of credit that is equal to the amount of the benefit on the card. If that person then drains the credit and is never heard from again, the bank would normally take that loss, but their demand to get that 6-month extension was, Dieter and the state of Nevada, you will take those losses on our behalf for us giving you this extension. That contract was, after some discussion, approved, and we now have an agreement of what the amount was. It's approximately $1.5 million, and we have the agreement we must pay that within 120 days. To put the amount in context, we've paid out $12 billion in benefits during this pandemic. We've recovered $150 million from Bank of America in other funds. So this 1.5 is a very small, I would use the term administrative cost, because it's a cost of doing those investigations that we were required as part of our contract extension with Bank of America to absorb. We're contractually obligated to do so, and we're asking for the authority on 2 fronts. The first is we have asked the Department of Labor to allow us to use PEUC money. That is one of the pandemic programs where we have money left over. Unfortunately, we have not heard a green light or a red light from the Department of Labor at this point. So in the alternative, we're asking for the authority to pay it out of penalties and interest, because unfortunately, given the regulations regarding, for lack of a better term, buckets of money related to the program and the various pandemic programs, those are the only 2 that we could pay this out of, possibly. But likely P&E if the Department of Labor doesn't allow us to pay it out of PEUC. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you very much. And thank you for summarizing that in a very digestible form. That made it a lot easier for me to understand than the documents and all the information I have in front of me. Do we have any further or any questions from the committee on this item? Assemblyman Roberts, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks for the great briefing. It helped me understand the complexity of this payment. Just one quick question is, so typically under the contract that we had with Bank of America, they would absorb some of these costs, but they, as you pointed out, recoup some money, right? So under the 6 months that we were responsible for our portion outside of the contract, so this is fraud, right? Supposedly, I mean, that's the way it's labeled here. So is the responsibility for recouping any fraudulent claims, does that rely on the state, or is that still the Bank of America doing that? And if it falls on the state, are we doing anything about it?
Okay, and I want to make clear, sorry, Troy Jordan again for the record with Dieter. I want to make clear there's a difference between these fees and recouping money for fraudulent claims. Fraudulent claims are claims that have been paid out that were fraudulent, whether it be identity theft or some other version of fraud. These fees are associated with investigations relating to fraud. I know it sounds like semantics, but they're a different thing. The state always has the obligation to try and recoup those funds. We are actively doing that. I do not have a number of the total number we have recouped, but we actually have the benefit payment and control unit that does that every day. That's their job, getting those funds back, referring things for prosecutions, getting them back through the AG's office during those prosecutions, and trying to claw back this money, for lack of a better term, off cards that we know to be fraudulent. So that's occurring every day, and it is our responsibility. I do not have a number for you.
150.
But we can get you that number if you need to, but the 150 is part of that number.
Thank you. That explains it. I appreciate it. I'm fine with not having the number today, but that would be great if you could get it at another time, just to put it in perspective of how much we're recouping. So thank you for the question, Chair, and thank you for the answer.
Thank you, Assemblyman. And Assemblywoman Miller, you have a question on this item as well.
Yes, thank you, Chair. And my question is for Director Cafaretta or anyone else who may be able to answer it. I believe we all appreciate the fact that sometimes the federal government doesn't work at lightning speed. And so for the approval that you've requested in order to use those PEUC funds, can you just explain specifically where in the process this may be while you're waiting for approval, maybe specific dates of when you asked and when you anticipate that the answer could come through? And also it would be helpful if maybe if there's any other states that are in this situations that maybe they've received approval, so we can gauge how long it possibly could take before an answer comes.
Hi, this is Josh Marhefka for the record. We've been working with the Department of Labor on this since early September. We work with our regional office, and then they talk to the national office. We haven't gotten any responses back outside of more questions. And as far as we know, we're the only state that have asked to use these funds. And, we're hopeful that at some point they will give us the approval.
And this is Director Cafaretta, just to follow up and maybe answer some of the questions you haven't asked. We have this obligation to pay this basically administrative fees within the 120 days. So we have identified these two potential sources. We also plan, should we, so we know for sure penalties and interest fund is typically the place we've paid these things from. If we get the okay from the Department of Labor at any time to use the PEUC funds, where they were granting us additional administrative dollars over the last year and a half, we would be able to go back and replace the penalties and interest funds with the PEUC funds, however, whatever the mechanics are that we do that. So if at any time we get this approval from the Department of Labor, we'll be able to replenish penalties and interest.
I appreciate that statement. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. And Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno, do you still have a question?
Just had a quick question, Mr. Chair. Could you tell us, are there any other steps that you're taking, your department is taking to recover funds that were distributed that you now know were fraudulent unemployment claims that you haven't already spoke about? Are there any other steps that you're taking?
This is Director Caffaretta for the record. We are working, as we've shared with you several times, our state, as well as every other state, was hit very hard with fraudulent and imposter claims because of the way these programs were set up. So we have been working from the beginning of the pandemic on several levels to recover, to stop fraudulent payments and applications before they could be processed, and then recover the funds. So we've participated with a very extensive audit with the Office of the Inspector General and the Department of Justice and the Department of Labor at the federal level. They are pursuing some significant fraudulent rings that are folks who have not only committed fraud in Nevada, but also across several states. So there are several large investigations and prosecutions going on at the federal level. We are working with the U.S. Attorney and the Department of Public Safety and the Attorney General's office in Nevada to pursue cases that would be in the state of Nevada. Anytime local law enforcement comes up with a case, we provide all of the background they need in order to prosecute those cases. And then, as Mr. Jordan mentioned, we do have a benefits protection unit that is ongoing, working to recover funds. And then we are working with our vendor, as we also mentioned, in partnership with Bank of America. We have recovered over $150 million that has come back to the trust fund in Nevada and also the federal programs wherever the benefits were originally paid. So it is certainly an active and ongoing part of our work. We've actually done a contract to increase our staff in our fraud unit. So we believe that this will be ongoing for several years as we sort through all of this. So we're doing everything that we can to recover these funds and return them to taxpayers.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Mr. Chair, I just have one other question. Your staff has done an amazing job throughout this entire pandemic. We know that there was an additional amount of money that was given for the pandemic for unemployment, and that's recently been cut off. But we've heard that some that had the additional money cut off, their regular unemployment was also cut off. Do we know if those have gone back online, or do you still have a wait list for that?
Lisa Caffaretta for the record. So to clarify, if I possibly can, a very complicated program, which is unemployment. What happened was Congress had approved those extensions and they expired September 4th, essentially, was the last week you could get the extended benefits. So those have all stopped. Some people, and then in addition to that, because the unemployment rate in Nevada was so high, we also had a state extended benefit program that actually lasted one more week than the federal extensions to make it as confusing as possible. And for some people, they could see in their accounts that they still had weeks of money or a benefit coming to them, but the federal program, you sort of get a lifetime benefit amount and you're drawing it down on a weekly basis. But when the congressional extensions ended, all those balances also expired. So for a lot of folks, it was very confusing that it looked like they still had benefits due to them, but because the federal government actually stopped the program, they did not have those benefits. So and this is my, unemployment 101. So the people who now are eligible for unemployment benefits are the people who are in the regular unemployment program, which is 26 weeks of benefits. So those are the folks who still are eligible and have benefits coming to them. There's one other group of people that may be eligible, which are there'll be folks who you'll hear they'll say, I have a double dip issue on my claim. And what that means is you have to start, once your first unemployment claim expires, you have to open a new claim. And if you meet the criteria, which is working a certain number of weeks between your first claim and your second claim, you can start up a second claim. So it is quite complicated, and there, unfortunately, the system did show some people that they still had money, which they really didn't because the federal programs had expired. But those are the two groups that still can have benefits, and those systems are up and working, which is if you have a new claim that's less than 26 weeks or you've worked enough weeks to open a new claim.
Thank you so much for that explanation. And thank you, Mr. Chair, for the opportunity to ask the question.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. I appreciate that. Do we have any other questions from the committee? And again, thank you for your patience as I scroll through all these pictures of all my friends and colleagues. All right, it doesn't appear as if we have any further questions from the committee, and just want to thank you, Director Caparetta. Thank your whole team, not just for today, but all the work that you've been doing these last couple of years in this unprecedented time for your agency, definitely. So with no further questions or comments, do I have a motion for item 63?
Move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion to approve item 63 and a second from Vice Chair Carlton and a second from Senator Dennis. Do I have any discussion on that motion? All right, I do not see any. So if all the members in favor of that motion could raise their hand. All right, thank you. And if the members in opposition to that motion could raise their hand. The motion passes unanimously with the members present, and thank you. Thank you, the leader team. We can move on to our next item. So our next item is item 65, and that is the Department of Motor Vehicles. This is about the system technology application redesign issue, and we have with us today Administrator Smith and Ms. Mason. And so if you guys could, if you folks could walk us through that issue, I would really appreciate it.
Great, thank you, Chair Brooks. Good afternoon, committee members. For the record, Angela Smith-Lamb, Admin Services Administrator for the Department of Motor Vehicles. Work Program C55413 for DMV Budget Account 4716. System Technology Application and Redesign request transfer from the reserve category to the technology fee refund category of $6,010,347 to refund technology fee collections deemed unconstitutional. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have on this work program. Also joining me today, is Tanya Laney.
Thank you. And I think we probably do have some questions on this. So if we have, I know that there's been quite a bit of conversation and around this particular issue, and that there was an agreement reached, and we had some legal opinions from different agencies and branches, and to come to some sort of conclusion. And we heard this last, we heard a plan last, last IFC meeting, and we had to had to discuss what that plan looked like. And so I know that we have our legal staff here and our fiscal staff that have reviewed it, and we've had quite a bit of conversation. So I think that I'll start by seeing if I could go to possibly our fiscal staff to see if they could summarize the course of action since the last IFC meeting, and then possibly go to our legal staff to potentially talk about what an opinion was on that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll go first if that's okay.
Yes, please.
So Wayne Thorley, for the record, Senate Fiscal Analyst. So in the packet of information that was provided to all the members are two documents. These documents are also available on the IFC's the meeting website, available for the public. The first document is it's a one-pager from the Department of Motor Vehicles, which explains the plan that they had developed to issue the technology fee refunds. The second document is a stipulation agreement that was filed with the district court that outlines, again, there's an exhibit in there that outlines the plan from the Department of Motor Vehicles, and also mentions that an agreement has been reached amongst all the parties to the lawsuit that this plan is acceptable, and but it did require, the stipulation agreement does require the Interim Finance Committee to approve the work program that is before them today in order for that plan to be carried out. In addition to the plan described on the one pager from the Department of Motor Vehicles, which is attachment A in your packet. Based on a conversation with the Department of Motor Vehicles yesterday, it is fiscal staff's understanding that the DMV has agreed to make the following modifications to the plan, and would certainly welcome, if I'm mistaken, to be corrected on what these modifications are. So one, that an individual who paid the technology fee during fiscal year 2021 and fiscal year 2022 will obtain a refund of the technology fee by presenting proof of payment of the technology fee at a DMV field office. So that is one option for an individual to attain a refund, is to provide a receipt or proof that they paid the technology fee during the disallowed period. Two, an individual who paid the technology fee during fiscal year 21 or fiscal year 22 will be able to obtain a refund of the technology fee after the DMV verifies the number of transactions and amount of technology fee paid by the individual. So an individual that presents at the DMV will be able to obtain a refund, and the DMV would be able to look up what amount of technology fee that individual paid during the disallowed period, and would be able to receive a refund up to that amount. And then three, an individual who did not pay the technology fee during fiscal year 21 or fiscal year 22, as determined through a check of the person's transaction history, will not be able to receive a technology fee refund payment. That is fiscal staff's understanding of the modifications that the DMV has agreed to make to the plan, the refund plan, and include in a amended stipulation agreement that is filed with the district court. And again, I know there's been several changes recently, so I would welcome correction from the Department of Motor Vehicles if I misstated anything regarding what the agency has agreed to do.
Thank you, Mr. Thorpe.
Sorry, you covered it all pretty clearly. Thank you, Wayne. Angela Smith for the record. You covered it in a nutshell. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thorley. Thank you, Ms. Administrator Smith. So that description and the one-page document that you've submitted, they provide the overview of the process as you understand it. And you agree that that is correct, Administrator Smith?
Chair Brooks, yes, that's correct. Angela Smith for the record.
Okay, great, thank you. So with that understanding and with those documents in front of us, does the committee have any questions? Okay, Assemblywoman Titus, I see a question there.
Thank you, Chair Brooks, for the opportunity to ask a question. Real quick, did I just, so for me, as somebody who has multiple vehicles, et cetera, over the last 2 years, I have to take my registration receipts for the last 2 years, say my 5 vehicles, so 10 down there to the DMV and wait in line and show them proof that I've paid that. And then they issue me a check then, or do I fill out a form? Can you do that online, or is it, how does that process? Because it was unclear to me that we have to, how do we show proof that we paid that?
For the record, Angela Smith to Assemblyman Titus, bringing in your receipt will help the process go quicker, but we can certainly look it up. If you come in and present your ID, your identification, we can look it up and see the total amount that you paid for that period, and you will be given a cash refund in the amount that you paid during the period.
So follow up on that, Mr. Chair. So it's going to be all of us, for everybody who feels that they have a refund coming and our interest in collecting the refund has to go in person to the DMV office for that, which is already overcrowded. There's no online application process.
For the record, Angela Smith, that's correct.
All right, thank you for that question, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. Do we have any other questions from the committee of DMV on this process? Senator Gokuchia.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And then I assume then the county field offices, you've got 4 or 5 of them across the state, they would be able to make that refund as well?
For the record, that is correct.
Thank you.
Sorry, for the record, that's Angela Smith. Sorry, Senator Gokuchia, your understanding is correct. We'll give refunds at all rural offices as well, as long as it's a DMV office.
That's good. I know where I'm going to get mine. Thank you.
All right, do we have any other questions from any of the committee members? Okay, so I think that, you know, this is a long saga and a lot of folks have been involved in it at a lot of levels. And I think that moving forward with this plan as modified, that really addresses a lot of concerns that our committee had, that our legal staff of our committee had, individual legislators had. A lot of hard work has gone into this from a lot of parties, and the DMV has really kind of bent over backwards to come up with some plans. And I really appreciate that. And I really appreciate you being here today and working with us. Based on that, I think that moving forward with this modified plan, as it's laid out in the document and in the testimony, contingent on a stipulation makes a lot of sense. And we want to make sure that the modification of the plan does live and exist in a stipulation. And so So I would be willing to take a motion that would reflect that.
Mr. Chairman, I had something prepared just because there's been so much legalities around this thing that I want to make sure we are absolutely positively clear with everyone. So if you would like me to go ahead and put that on the record.
Please do, Vice Chair Carlton.
Thank you. And thank the DMV staff and our legal staff and our fiscal staff for getting us through all this. So my motion would be to approve the work program to transfer $6,010,347 from the reserve category to the technology fee refund category to process refunds to customers of the DMV for technology fees paid in fiscal year 2021 and fiscal year 2022, with the approval of the work program contingent upon the approval of the district court of an amended stipulation agreement containing the following modifications presented by the DMV. The first one, that an individual who paid the technology fee during fiscal year 2021 or fiscal year 2022 will obtain a refund of the technology fee by presenting proof of payment of the technology fee at the DMV field office. Number two, that an individual who paid the technology fee during fiscal year 2021 or fiscal year 2022 will be able to obtain a refund of the technology fee after the DMV verifies the number of transactions and amount technology fee paid by the individual. And number three, that an individual who did not pay the technology fee during fiscal year 2021 or fiscal year 2022, as determined through a check of the person's transaction history, will not be able to receive a technology fee refund payment. The end.
That is the motion from Vice Chair Carlton. We have a second from Senator Dennis. Do we have any discussion on that motion?
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Settlemeyer, please.
Just for clarification, it is a duty of the DMV to look up whether or not someone is owed the refund. It's not that they have to request that it be looked up, correct? The DMV, when someone is in there, will look it up and make sure that they need to refund the money that was illegally obtained, correct?
For the record, Angela Smith, yes, the DMV will look it up.
Thank you.
Thank you for that question, Senator Settlemeyer. Thank you for confirming that, Chair Smith. Any other discussion on the motion? I have Assemblyman Leavitt.
Sorry, I wanted to get this clarified before the motion, but it's kind of pertains to it. So for some reason, I thought that the $6 million was for the DMV to investigate and return the money. Like, I don't understand. I guess I just don't understand how it costs $6 million to have people go in on their own volition and ask for $1. Let me just clarify that. I'm sorry it didn't pertain to the motion, but I just didn't understand, I guess.
Yeah, I want to make sure that everyone's clear on this before they vote on the motion. And if we could explain what that $6 million goes to for Assemblyman Leavitt, that would be great.
For the record, Angela Smith, the $6 million is the money that was actually collected, and we're simply asking that to be moved from reserves into a category that will allow us to process the refunds. Hopefully that answers your question.
And the refund,
yes, it does. Thank you.
The refund dollars themselves are in part of that $6 million, correct?
Correct.
Thank you for clarifying that. And so if we have any further discussion on the motion, I do not see any, thank you. So we can go to a vote. All those in favor of the motion that was presented by Chair Carlton and seconded by Senator Dennis, please raise your hand. All right, thank you. All those opposed to the motion, please raise your hand. Oh, all right, I don't see any opposed. Thank you very much. Motion passes unanimously with the president. And again, want to thank the hardworking staff over there. Thank you, Administrator Smith. Thank you, Ms. Mason, and thank you, all the folks over at DMV who work really hard on this journey. And also, I'd like to thank our staff and our legal team and the folks at the governor's office and Senator Settlemeyer as well for all the conversations that were had on this. All right, so we'll move on to our next agenda item. And our next agenda item is what we added, and I believe that was items, I think Vice Chair Carlton asked us to add items 83 and 84, and that is Department of Health and Human Services, Child and Family Services, both the Southern Nevada Child and Adolescent Services and Northern Nevada Child and Adolescent Services. We'll take those two components together. And if you want to give us a brief description of what those work programs are, and then I believe Assembly Vice Chair Carlton has a few questions. And is that?
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Oh, go ahead. I thought
Good
that
afternoon.
was Mr. Ask.
Yeah. Yep. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Ross Armstrong, Administrator for the Division of Child and Family Services. And with me for these work programs is our new Deputy Administrator for Community Services, Dr. Cindy Pitlock. These two work programs allow the division to utilize CARES Act relief funds to contract for additional staff for our children's mobile crisis response teams in both the North and the South. And so with that, we'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll go ahead and ask my questions on 83 and 84. It looked like when I was going through some of the backup documents that the exact same amount was requested from both. And they were both not granted that particular amount, but they were both granted the same amount. But we have to just know that the workload in Southern Nevada is different than the workload in Northern Nevada. So I'm just wondering why the exact same amounts were given to both entities, knowing the population difference, the need difference. How did it end up this way? And if this is a temporary thing and we're working towards a more permanent solution, I understand it, but just common sense would tell you that the need in Southern Nevada might be a little bit more than in the North. So that exact same amount just sent up a little flag for me.
For the record, Cindy Pitlock, Deputy Administrator, Division of Child and Family Services. Thank you for the question. And I hope I can shed some light to that because I really understand what you're trying to illuminate. So for the staff that we have in the South, clinicians for the Mobile Crisis Response Team, we currently have 52.5 positions. In the North, we currently have 14.5 positions. So the majority of the staff is already down in the South. And for the South, they are also carrying the majority of the telehealth visits and supplementing the North team. So if we were to improve and increase the North team response, we would be able to free up Southern clinicians for actual deployment. So I hope that helps with the question.
And thank you very much. I appreciate that. I think the other side of the equation is what is it going to take to get both entities at where they really need to be and what are the true needs? So I know we're giving them each a set amount moving forward, and this is temporary. What are we looking at in the future to be able to address where both of them actually should really be?
Thank you, Madam Assemblywoman Ross Armstrong, for the record. And this was an opportunity to utilize this CARES relief funding, which comes to an end shortly, for immediate assistance. The division has developed, a larger, more substantive ARP Act request that we are hoping will be coming soon and funded so that we can expand those mobile crisis teams. Our mobile crisis response teams for children are very effective and can help us reach families where they are. And so coming up with what exactly Nevada's need is, right now we're in a pretty dire situation with children's mental health. And so it's substantial now. And we continue to monitor caseloads of different teams and ways that we can be more efficient in getting teams deployed out into the community.
Assemblywoman Carlton, this is for the record.
Go ahead.
For the record, Cindy Pitlock. Another thing that we're doing too is we're really looking at workforce development and stabilization. So these tend to be challenging positions to recruit for. So my team and I are looking at alternatives to supplement recruitment. For example, looking at crisis RNs and how they might fit into this paradigm. So we widen our pool of candidates and put more tools in the toolbox to choose from. So we really do have a global view of really improving the access, not only just in numbers, but diversity of the team. So I thought you would perhaps be happy to hear that as well.
Thank you both very much. I appreciate the answers, and having you actually talk about how many teams are actually on the ground in each locale makes it a little clearer. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I don't have any other questions and I'm supportive of this moving forward.
Thank you, Vice Chair Carlton. Thank you, Mr. Armstrong, and welcome to your new position, Dr. Pitlock, and for both of you joining us today. And so if I would like to open it up to the full committee on any questions on these two items. I don't see any. All right, so all those in favor of approving items 83 and 84.
I would make a motion, Mr. Chairman, to approve the items.
I would second.
You know, that works better. So I have a motion and a second. Do I have any discussion on that motion? All right, I do not see any. Oh, I do. Assemblywoman Tulls. No? Oh, you're just jumping the gun on like I did. I dig it. All right. Okay. So I don't see any discussion on the motion. So all those in favor of approving those motions, please raise your hand. Thank you. All those opposed, please raise your hand. And it passes unanimously with the members present. Thank you very much. And so that now we can move on to our next agenda item. And thank you again, Mr. Armstrong and Dr. Pitlock for joining us today. So our next agenda item is that, I believe, unless Mr. Thorley corrects me, is all of our items under agenda item E. And we can now move to agenda item F, a statement on the contingency account balance. And Mr. Thorley, if you could go over the contingency account balance statement with us, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The contingency account balance statement is in volume 3 of your packet, beginning on page 195. So again, volume 3 of the printed packet, or if you're viewing online, volume 3 of the link online, beginning on page 195. I'll be very brief. I understand that we're getting later into the afternoon. On page 195 is the overview of the IFC contingency account balance. If you look at the total column and go about halfway down the column, you'll see that the beginning balance at the beginning of the current fiscal year, beginning balance as of July 1, 2021, was $25.5 million. There were $8.6 million worth of appropriations made to the IFC contingency account. This was as a result of various bills that the 2021 legislature adopted to appropriate funding to the restricted IFC contingency account. There were also some reversions to the IFC contingency account, 6.8 million, as a result of allocations that were made from the contingency account, but ultimately not spent. So total funding available is 40.9 million. After reducing some costs related to meeting costs and prior allocations from the IFC this fiscal year, the balance prior to any actions taken today is $40.5 million. There is one item pending on the agenda for an allocation from the contingency account for just over $300,000. If that is approved, the remaining balance after today's meeting will be $40.2 million. And then I won't go through the backup materials, but they're between page 197 and page 200 is additional information from the unrestricted general fund, the unrestricted highway fund, and then the restricted general fund and highway fund allocations that are in the contingency account. And Mr. Chair, I'm happy to answer any questions that any members might have.
Thank you, Mr. Thorley. Do any members have any questions on the IFC contingency account? All right, I do not see any. All right, thank you very much, Mr. Thorley. So we can go to the next agenda item, which is agenda item G. And that's a request for allocations from the IFC contingency account. And we had two items here. Item one was withdrawn, and we have item two from the Office of the Military Division of Emergency Management. And we're going to discuss that one. And so we have, I believe, Chief Fogerson from DEM, and I believe Chief Fogerson is going to be joined by Justin Luna and Mr. Compton and Mr. Samuels. And so if you wanted to go ahead, Chief Fogerson.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm David Fogerson. I'm Nevada's Emergency Manager and Homeland Security Chief. We're here today to ask for $303,601 from the contingency fund to provide up to 201 National Guard members. These National Guard members will support Clark County, their cities, Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, and area hospitals on state active duty for the New Year's Eve event this coming year. We've been performing this mission since 2001, with the exception of 2020 when we turned it off due to not wanting the tourism during the outbreak of the pandemic. Before 2015, this was used as a training event and funded through the military. Changes in federal rules caused us to have to take it back to being paid for out of state coffers and make these military employees state active duty members. So since 2015, we've been coming to IFC asking for this. Deputy Chief of Staff Bordelin and I have a discussion and have a plan forward for next biennium's budget, so that way we don't have to continue to ask in this manner for it. In emergency management, every incident is executed locally, state guided, and federally supported. This one is no different. All of our Southern Nevada partners are with us in this event, and they've asked us to support them in areas they lack the depth of resources. The Nevada National Guard members will serve as force multipliers to assist with an estimated 400,000 participants this year at New Year's Eve. We vet their request upon the analysis of the threats and the risks to the public. Personnel from the Guard will support law enforcement and crowd management at what we believe is the nation's second largest New Year's Eve celebration. They also support our healthcare system at various hospitals across Las Vegas Valley. These are both areas where resources are stretched thin over New Year's Eve celebrations. Las Vegas, as you know, is a great tourist destination. Much like Times Square, it takes more than the usual number of resources to accomplish the task of public health and safety. It presents unique risks, threats, and opportunities as we work collaboratively to protect our tourists, our locals, and our economy. We all appreciate your consideration of this request, and I do have our ASO from DEM if there's any financial questions. Lieutenant Colonel Compton had to leave for another engagement. But we also have Deputy Chief Billy Samuels from the Clark County Fire Department, who's also Clark County's emergency manager, on the call with us. We're available for any questions you may have regarding this request. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Chief Ferguson. And we have one question, and I have some questions as well, but from Senator Harris.
Thank you so much, Chair Brooks. You've addressed part of my question, so I'll just start with the part you've addressed and we'll clear that up, and then I'll ask the second part. You mentioned that you have a plan for the next biennium so that you don't have to come back to IFC in this manner. Can you tell us a little bit about that plan?
Through the chair to the Senator David Fulgerson, Nevada's Emergency Manager, Homeland Security Chief. Thanks for the question. Absolutely. Our problem with this request and putting in the DEM's budget was trying to figure out, because each year we alter the amount that we request based upon what the needs are from the county that they cannot fulfill for themselves. And so we didn't want to inflate the division's budget at a higher amount. So our plan moving forward that we've discussed is to increase the contingency amount by the amount that we would expect on a high end. So that way it's still there, and then whatever we don't use can be used by other state agencies rather than keeping in the division's budget, and then it would go to ending fund balance and be left over for the following fiscal year. But still allow a way forward for us to be able to use the money now, but then leave it for the other people.
Okay, thank you. The second part of my question has to go with the amount that you're requesting. Can you tell us a little bit about why you still require, a high level of supplemental security from the Nevada National Guard when the Department of Homeland Security has changed the event assessment from a special event assessment rating 1 to a special event assessment rating 2?
Through the chair to the Senator David Fulgerson, another great question. It is a SEER level 2 event, not a SEER level 1 event. And the SEERs really start talking about what level of involvement the federal government comes in to assist the state and local government with. So they've determined that there's less of a terrorist event possible when they do those assessments. We still have all the other activities that we have to be concerned about, as simple as the crowd becoming too rambunctious for the number of law enforcement officers that are available. Because we got to remember we have a community of 2 million people that Metro and Clark County Fire, Las Vegas Fire Rescue are still providing day-to-day services to, and then we influx that additional 400,000 people to their community. And so we have to take care of those extra people that come to the community in addition to everything else that goes on back at the ranch, kind of stuff that is still happening in that community. And so even though there's not a huge terrorist event threat, and that's determined by that SEER level incident, we still have the normal items you have when you add 400,000 people to a smaller area and have them outside of the casino core, and they're going to be on the strip, and they're going to be walking the strip, and then we have having to close down the roadways so that way we don't have a vehicle versus pedestrian issue into the crowd, whether it's a nefarious or non-nefarious incident that occurs. So we just want to make sure that we have that protection level for all those other events that we do see. And things like a lone wolf gunman is not looked at as a terrorist event. Those are looked at criminal events. And so it's making sure that we're prepared for every potentiality to protect our economy and the residents and the tourists that we do see in Vegas.
Thank you. I appreciate that thorough and logical answer. We don't always get that, so I appreciate you being prepared. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. It looks like you are joined by an assistant as well this afternoon, and we'll be helping you through the rest of this meeting. And thank you, Chief Broker, for that answer. I think that that totally appropriate use of state funds. This is an incredibly important part of our economy. That is an event that happens every year, and safety of our residents, of our tourists, and of our first responders during that event should be our highest and utmost concern. I'm just a little concerned with the method by which this is funded, and I think that I have a hard time understanding why it wouldn't be more predictable of an expense, and it's fluctuated. And Chief Overseer, you said that's based on changing availability of Clark County. I would assume this should be every bit as predictable for them as it is for us. And so I think that there's a far more appropriate way to fund this. When you come to IFC contingency account for an event that's going to happen in less than 2 months, and that is incredibly necessary, and then ask to fund that response to that event, our hands are tied and there is no oversight. This is the oversight role, and it's kind of, it's not appropriate. So I think that if this committee chooses to approve this, I think that it should be based on a recommendation that the Department of Emergency Management, Governor's Finance Office, Clark County, all come together and figure out a different way to do this. And that, in my mind, I know you kind of demonstrated what your idea is, but I think it lives in the general. I think it lives in the budget, and I think it needs to be submitted as a budget item, and not just. But whatever it is, it's got to be different from this day forward than how we're doing it today. And so there's my soapbox. I'll get off of it and open this up to any further questions from the committee. Assemblyman Roberts.
Thank you, Chair. And you know, I appreciate your support for the funding. I can tell you, as the incident commander for 2 or 3 of those New Year's Eves, couldn't do what we did without help from the National Guard. And when the funding moved from training to other sources, we worked hard to get the SEER rating up to a 1. We did for like 1 year, and it went right back down and to 2, which is a significant event. I mean, the SEER rating started at 4, and so there's a high risk of terrorism, a high risk of incidents. But I do concur with you, right? We know we're going to need this help every year, and there's probably a better way to appropriate the money than through IFC. But I would certainly encourage support for this money this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblyman, and thank you for your insight that you have on this. Probably no other members of this committee have. Are there any other questions or comments from any of the other members?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, and thank you for picking up the baton on this. In 2019, I made pretty much the same statement you just made, but in 2020, we didn't have the event. So here we are in 2021. I would inspire them to work with our fiscal staff if they have trouble figuring out how they'd like to build a budget around this. And Ms. Brown is always available too, but some of this can be predictable. I believe I heard something along the lines of, well, if we don't use it for this, we'll use it for that. That sometimes doesn't work in budgets the way most people think it would because of the way we line item things and the way we account for it. So I would just ask them to work with our folks so that they can figure out how to hash this out, build it into your budget. We're there for you. We want to help you. We just want to do it the right way.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Do we have any other questions or comments from the committee? I do not see any. So with that, you know, I've made my recommendation and I've made my request, and I'll continue to work in the interim and definitely through the next regular session when the budget is presented. But if I had it my way, and I just might have something to do with that, we're not ever going to do this again. And so please take that to heart. But I would look for a motion to approve this. And
so moved.
Okay. I have a motion from Vice Chair Carlton. I have a second from Senator Dennis. Do I have any discussion on that motion? All right, I see none. So all in favor of approving this item, please raise your hand. Thank you. All those in opposition, please raise your hand. All right, it passes unanimously with the members present. And thank you very much. Thank you very much, Chief Overson, and thank you, Mr. Samuels, Chief Samuels, for joining today, and for all the hard work you guys are doing, and all the hard work you're going to do come here December 31st. And so appreciate that. Appreciate you keeping us all safe and keeping our economy running and our tourism economy healthy and safe. So next, we will get to the next item, which is going to be agenda item H. And agenda item H is a request for approval to accept gifts and grants. And we have a few items that we'll be looking at. We have the first one, which is the Department of Tourism and Cultural Affairs, Nevada Arts Council, and that's a request to accept creative aging grant funds from the National Assembly of State Art Agencies. And I believe that we have the Governor's Finance Note. We have Mr. Manfredi, and from the Executive Director of the Nevada Arts Council. And I believe we might have somebody from Governor's Finance Office that can help us understand this as well.
Good afternoon, Chair Brooks and Interim Finance Committee members. Tony Manfredi, Executive Director for the Nevada Arts Council. Thank you for the opportunity to present our Creative Aging Initiative. I'm here today with a request for your approval to accept Creative Aging Grant funds from the National Assembly of State Arts Agencies in the amount of $23,000. With your approval, this funding will be utilized to provide professional development training throughout the state that creates opportunities for seniors to benefit from meaningful creative expression through the arts. This work addresses one of the focus areas of the Nevada Arts Council's strategic plan for building healthy communities through collaborating with healthcare providers and partners to increase and support the understanding, value, and use of the arts in the healing, quality of life initiatives and well-being, and the creative aging of Nevada's residents. Again, thank you for the opportunity to better clarify and answer any questions on our request.
Thank you, Mr. Manfredi. Do we have any questions from the committee on this request? All right, I see none. So I would take a motion.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion to approve this item, and from Vice Chair Carlton, a second from Senator Dennis. Any discussion on the motion? I see none. So all in favor, please raise your hand. Thank you. All opposed, please raise your hand. Motion passes unanimously with those present. And thank you very much, Mr. Manfredi, for presenting that test today.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
And next we have the State Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, the Division of Environmental Protection, with a few requests, two requests. To present that, we have Deputy Administrator Carr from NDEP. Deputy Administrator Carr, if you could please explain those to us briefly.
Thank you very much, Jennifer Carr, for the record. These two agenda items are a request to accept grants from the US EPA for the Drinking Water State Revolving Loan Fund and the Clean Water State Revolving Loan Fund. You all have seen this funding discussed in the past, various committee hearings and whatnot. It's been part of our program for decades. It was not until this year that we were informed that NRS 353.335 requires that we bring these grants into our program through the Interim Finance Committee. These grants have always come into our non-executive budget account that holds these funds, for which we provide infrastructure loans, and that will continue. But because of the size of the grants being over 150,000, we've been informed by the Governor's Finance Office that this is now part of the process. So
I guess you'll see us do this every year about this time. And it's simply to bring these grants into our funding to capitalize the state revolving funds.
Thank you, Ms. Carr. I have a question before I turn it over to the committee. How do these two grants relate to previous years as far as these two grants and these that go into these two revolving loan programs?
Thank you very much for the question, Jennifer Carr, for the record. If you're talking about just how they, just the general dollar value of them, they do fluctuate a little bit up and down over, from one year to the next. They're relatively consistent. If you'd like additional detail, I do have Jason Cooper with me, who can provide maybe a perspective compared to what it was last year or something along those lines. But they don't swing wildly, so these amounts are similar to what we've received in the past.
Thank you. That answered my question for me. Do we have any other questions from the committee? I do not see any. Thank you very much. So I would take a motion to approve these two items.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
I have a motion to approve from Vice Chair Carlton and a second from Senator Dennis. Do I have any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. Thank you. All those in opposition, please raise your hand. All right, it passes unanimously with members present. And we can move on to our next item. Thank you, Deputy Administrator Carr, and thank you for all the staff at NDEP for working on this program. And we can now move on to the department. This is item H3, Department of Indigent Defense, and it's a request for approval to accept grant funds from the State Bar of Nevada in the amount of $26,000 to support law school student externship stipends in rural areas to increase indigent defense services. And with us, we have Executive Director Riva and Management Analyst Kona to explain this request very briefly.
Good afternoon, Chair Brooks and members of the committee. My name is Marcy Riva, and I'm the Director of the Department of Indigent Defense Services. Today, we are requesting approval to accept grant funds from the State Bar of Nevada in the amount of $26,000 to create a rural indigent defense externship program. The department is mandated by NRS 180.320 to work with Boyd School of Law at UNLV to determine incentives to recommend offering to law students to encourage them to provide indigent defense services, especially in the rural counties of the state. These grant funds will allow the department, in cooperation with the School of Law, to create a summer externship program, which will serve as a pipeline to encourage law students to experience and consider a career opportunity in indigent defense in the rural Nevada counties. And I can answer any additional questions if there are any.
Thank you, Ms. Riva. And I would like to turn it over to the committee if they have any questions, comments. I do not see any, so I will entertain a motion to approve item H3.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
I have a motion from Vice Chair Carlton, a second from Senator Dennis. Any discussion on that motion? I see none. So all in favor of that motion, please raise your hand. Okay, thank you. Any opposed to that motion? See none. So the motion passes unanimously with the members present, and we can move on to the next item. Thank you, Ms. Riva, for presenting that to us today. And up next is, that's all of the items under agenda item H. And so up next, we have agenda item I, which is the request for approval of expenditure from the account for renewable energy, energy efficiency, and energy conservation. And we have Deputy Director Jennifer Taylor here today to briefly describe what this request is.
Thank you, Chairman Brooks. Good afternoon, Vice Chair Carlton and members of the committee. My name is Jennifer Taylor. I serve as Deputy Director at the Governor's Office of Energy. Thank you for the opportunity to present GOE's request to approve this grant funding to the Walker River Paiute Tribe. This item requests a grant from GOE to the Walker River Paiute Tribe in the amount of $200,000 and to be dispersed from budget account 4875, category 11. This funding comes from ARA funds previously set up as a loan program and converted to a grant program in 2019 under Senate Bill 536. This is the first notice of funding opportunity under this new grant structure, and it was issued earlier this year. It targeted grants focusing on tribal energy resilience that could support the state's climate goals and reduce greenhouse gas emissions on tribal lands and provide the opportunity for Nevada's tribal nations to develop planning, analysis, and/or infrastructure projects centering on energy resilience, economic recovery opportunities, and energy equity. This grant from the Walker River Paiute Tribe would be used to conduct continued exploratory geothermal drilling on its tribal lands. There was a preliminary approval issued in the spring, and GOE advised that the award was contingent on legislative approval. With that, I will stand for any questions on this item, and thank you again for the opportunity to present this request.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Do we have any questions from the committee on this particular item? I have Assemblywoman Titus.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the presentation. This is literally in my north yard, I would say, and close to home. Just questions on the locations. Looking at the maps that were provided, you have included the salt wells and Wabusca area, which are not tribal lands, and they're active geothermal locations now. This would strictly be within the boundaries of the Shures Indian Reservation. Is that clear?
Jennifer Taylor, for the record, yes, Assemblywoman, this would be only within the boundaries of the Walker River Paiute tribal lands.
And the way I'm looking at this, if I might follow up with the question, Mr. Chair, is that you're looking at just drilling as opposed to any actual use or production or selling of this geothermal energy. This is strictly exploration because the funding is not much. And so we're still looking at exploration.
Jennifer Taylor, for the record, yes, Assemblywoman, it is still exploration. The hope that the tribe has is that they will find geothermal resources and then be able to take those next steps for the sale of those resources.
All right, and this is all on reservation land. So does the state of Nevada ultimately have any ruling on this on a reservation property?
Jennifer Taylor, for the record, Assemblywoman Titus, if I might just get some clarification, when you say ruling, what are you looking to understand?
We're using state funds, correct? Is this state funds that we're using to support a project on a reservation property, or are these federal funds grants that are now being used for this fund a project on a reservation?
Jennifer Taylor, for the record, yes, Assemblywoman, these are federal funds. These were ARA funds that were previously a loan program that were converted again to grants available for approved funding opportunities in 2019. So these are federal funds that would be used on those tribal lands.
All right, thank you for the clarification. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the question.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. And do we have any other questions on this item?
Mr. Chair, I have a quick question, if that's all right.
Watts, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the presentation on this, Ms. Taylor. Yeah, I recall when we took action to convert this to a grant program, and remember the Office of Energy describing the first priority to support renewable energy efforts on tribal land. So I'm glad to see that this is kind of the conclusion of that first phase, that we have a proposal before us. I was just wondering if you could help kind of jog our memory on how much funding continues to be available, and assuming that this moves forward, if you have any sense of what might come next, other than hopefully getting geothermal facility, helping the tribe get a geothermal facility through some of this additional research.
Jennifer Taylor, for the record, thank you for that question, Assemblyman Watts. I am I'm going to need to get you an answer on what funding remains. My recollection is that it may be around $2 million, but we will provide a number to this committee. The NOFO for this was a total of $500,000, just for your information. And there were actually 2 grants preliminarily approved that fell underneath that cap.
Thank you. May I ask a quick follow-up, Mr. Chair?
Please do.
Thank you. That's really helpful. And again, just kind of having that general concept of $2 million and then, you know, we're making this grant. And then just going back to my other question around kind of what comes next, do you yet have a kind of a process figured out for determining what's the timeline for like a future grant cycle, and figuring out like what the focus of that will be?
Jennifer Taylor, for the record, thank you, Assemblyman Watts, for that question. That is something that internally GOE is talking about right now to determine what would be the next funding opportunity. I don't unfortunately have a timeline for you, but certainly, again, that is something that I can get back to you on.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the questions.
Thank you, Assemblyman. Do we have any other questions from any of the committee members? All right, I do not see any. And thank you very much, Deputy Director Taylor, for helping us out today and presenting that to us. And congratulations to the Walker River Paiute Tribe. That's exciting news, and hopefully their exploratory drilling finds some good resources. All right, well, with that, I would take a motion to approve this item.
So moved, Mr. Chair. Assemblyman Watts.
Okay.
Thank you, Assemblyman Watts. I have a motion from Assemblyman Watts. I have a second from Senator Dennis. And any discussion on that motion? All right, I see none. And so all in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed, please, thank you. All opposed, please raise your hand. And that passes unanimously with the members present. I just think I need to recognize that we have a handful of members missing on that vote. As it gets late in the day, sometimes others have other obligations they have to go to, but Assemblyman Levitt, Senator Severs Gansert, and Assemblywoman Peterson and Senator Settlemeyer were not able to make that particular vote, and so just wanted to make that a record of that. I see Assemblyman Fryer said though. Thank you, sir. All right, so that vote passes unanimously with the members present, and I noted some of the members missing. And so if we could move on to the next item, which is item J, and that is the Department of Administration, the State Public Works Division. It's a request to accept and expend $316,000 in federal funds from the Office of the Military. With us today, we have Administrator Ward Patrick from State Public Works Division. And Mr. Patrick, if you could help us explain that briefly to us, what this request is for, and take it away.
Thank you. I'm not able to get my camera going, but can you hear me on the audio?
Yes, sir. We can hear you just fine. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Ward Patrick, Administrator for the Public Works Division, and available are representatives from the National Guard, including Jamie Ivey. Our agencies are available to answer any questions, and we'd like to thank you for consideration of this important item, which basically allows for funding to kick off the design of a hangar for Black Hawk helicopters located in near Stead, Nevada. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Patrick. And so this is additional funds that became available in addition to existing already approved funds for this project, and this is an expansion of the scope to match those new funds. Is that correct?
I appreciate that. These funds were available, and we intended to do some work prior to the legislative session on this early part of the design. And it turned out that the agreements with the federal government wouldn't allow both of these things to happen. What we call the MCCA, the Military Construction Collaborative Agreement, and then the Standard Military Agreement. And so therefore we're just adding these funds to enable the kickoff of the design for this hangar project.
Thank you, Mr. Patrick. Do we have any questions from the committee on this item? I do not see any, so I would look for a motion to approve this item.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
I have a motion from Vice Chair Carlton to approve and a second of that motion from Senator Dennis. Any discussion on that motion? I don't see any discussion, so all those in favor, please raise your hand. Thank you. Anyone in opposition, please raise your hand. And the motion passes unanimously with the members present. And we can move on to the next agenda item. Thank you again, Mr. Patrick, for joining us today. All right, so our next agenda item is agenda item K. And this is our last agenda item before public comment. And agenda item K, we have a few items on there that we would like to discuss. We have K1B, K11, and then finally K12 that we would like to discuss today. And no other items were brought up from the members at the beginning of the meeting. So we will start with K1B. Let me switch gears on my screens that are open. And with us today to discuss that, we have Director of the Office of Project Management, Mr. Nix, and we have several representatives from the vendor that is implementing Smart 21, LSI Consulting, joining us as well. So we'll start with Mr. Nix. If you could, if you would talk about the this informational item 1B about the Silver State modernization approach for resources and technology in the 21st century, or what we like to call Smart 21.
Thank you, Chair Brooks, and members of the committee. Paul Nix, for the record, Director of the Office of Project Management. The report that was submitted for IFC today was the period from January 1st to through June of 2021, given the progress of the Smart 21 project at that point in time. At that point in time, we had gone live with Wave 1.1 and 1.2, which is the Employee Central recruiting, learning, and onboarding. And we were working towards Wave 1.3, 1.4, and 2.0. 1.3 is payroll, and 1.4 is talent management, while 2.0 is the finance piece. Prior to submitting this report, we delayed the start of wave 1.4 to focus on wave 1.3 and also stabilizing 1.2, which is the recruiting and onboarding and learning piece. Since that time, we have revisited the schedule for 1.3, which is payroll, and are currently working to a 6-month delay on 1.3. For 2.0, which is the finance, and wave 1.4, we're currently working with LSI on the current timelines, looking to make sure that whatever timelines are out there we can make, if not making the adjustments as necessary to ensure that the products are implemented correctly and the state resources are ready to utilize them. Some additional information on the project's status currently. As I just mentioned, we are behind schedule, but we're also under budget. This is a deliverable-based project, so until the deliverables are paid or completed, there is no payment. In addition to that, during the travel restrictions, LSI Consulting provided the state with credits for what they would have used for traveling, and in total, it's come up to close to $1 million due to the delays in 1.3 and potential delays for 1.4 and 2.0. We fully expect those travel credits to be absorbed with our internal costs. A little bit with that. With our go live for 1.1 and 1.2, we have some challenges that we're still working through, primarily with recruiting, which is 1.2. The key issues within the recruiting is there's a search criteria that's utilized to identify regional areas. It's not inherent in the system. The functionality in the system that SAP developed does not work the way it should for us, and we brought it up to SAP, and their response was that it works, the functionality works as it was designed, because that functionality is being utilized for different areas within the system. So we're working with LSI to address that. The training and experience evaluations, those are not working as designed in the system, so we're working to configure them in a way to make sure that they work for the HR team. This obviously drives additional work for the HR team. And then we have a couple of other things. One is recruiting without a PCN. Typically, a PCN isn't created until the position is created. When we have a position that was created by the legislature with a October 1st start date, you can't really create the PCN. So we're in final testing to be able to do that. And then lastly, we have a center of capabilities that we're building within the system. And what this will do is it's a library of all the classification information and the minimum qualifications, special requirements. And so all of that will facilitate the creation of recruitments as well. With that, I will open it up for any questions for myself, our representatives from LSI, as well as Paul Miner, who is a senior director with Gartner Consulting, who is doing our independent validation, verification and validation for the project.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that, Mr. Nix. And I think we have a couple of questions. I'll start off with Assemblywoman Ivey.
Thank you, Chair Brooks. And again, my internet's a little unstable, so if I cut out, I apologize. But I do have a couple of questions, and I know you have representatives from LSI on, but I think these questions might be better suited for you, Mr. Nix. I know prior to January 2021, there hadn't been any concerns or any delays. It wasn't really till January 2021, this reporting period, where the delays have come in. But what what has LSI done to kind of address the delays and address the concerns the executive committee had and the concerns that were identified in the monthly report that Gardner issues?
So, Paul Nix to Assemblywoman Howdy. The monthly reports showed that a lot of the missed deliverables were early indicators. You know, when we look at the stats associated with that, not all of the deliverables really will impact the project itself. And so when we look at the late deliverables, we have, just one second. When we look at the late deliverables themselves, we have about half of the deliverables that we've seen were late. And if you want to look at, you know, some additional stats associated with that, the number of deliverables that were on the critical path, so that would actually impact the flow of the project, was 24 out of 133 total deliverables. 11 of those were resolved within the first week, and additional 8 of those happened just recently over the summer, which are related to the finance piece. And the impact of those additional 8 really wouldn't impact us until closer to December of this year. So given that a lot of these deliverables were the formal documentation for payment, the fact that those were late didn't rise to a very high level of concern, either for Gardner or for the state of Nevada. We were focusing on the ones that were on the critical path to ensure that the project itself was going forward. We had weekly conversations with LSI as far as addressing the quality and the timeliness of it. And what really came out of that was bringing on additional resources to address kind of the backlog of the deliverables that needed to be done. And so what we typically saw was we would have late deliverables, low quality deliverables. We'd see an improvement, it'd fall back off. We'd see an improvement when we bring it up. And so it was kind of a wave. Every time we brought it up, we'd see improvements, and then the improvements would decline back down. And so it was just more of managing the vendor and working with them to try to resolve those issues.
Thank you. And do you have
Chair, if I could, so I apologize for that. I was on mute, but Chair, if I could follow up.
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, Mr. Nix. And then just a couple more questions. You did mention that the project was on a 6-month delay. Does that mean that we anticipate the human resources, payroll, and finance modules to be completed within those 6 months? Will the entire project be completed? Because it was set to be completed in July of 2022. And so
Correct.
Walk me through what those delays have done and when we expect those modules to be completed.
Sure. So Paul Nix for the record to Assemblywoman Howdy. So for the project itself, our first 2 waves, wave 1.1, 1.2 were 3 months delayed. They were supposed to go live last January. They went live in March. Wave 1.3, which is payroll, was supposed to go, and 1.4, which is talent management, was supposed to go live in January of 22. Right now, payroll is targeted to go live in July of 22. And at this point, we're looking at the schedules for finance and for the second part of talent management to see when it makes sense for those to go live. Our current concern is, even if the financial system was fully integrated or fully configured by July 1st, we don't feel that we'll be able to provide sufficient time for the agencies to update their internal controls to ensure that the state resources are fully trained on the new system, as well as have their systems that need to be integrated into the financial system fully integrated. And so we're looking at the finance schedule right now. And once we have a decision on that schedule, we'd be more than happy to share it with you. But at this point, I have a low level of confidence that we'll be going live with finance in July of 2022.
Okay, thank you. And Chair, just two last questions, if I could. I was going to ask Mr. Nix, if there was any financial and operational ramifications to the delays, and I think you kind of touched on the financial ones, and they're actually positive, so that's good news. But what about any operational ramifications to the delays? Can you walk us through? Are we going to use our existing human resources information systems, or is that still operational?
So right now, these current systems that are that would be impacted is Advantage HR and Advantage Financial. Advantage HR, we'll need to keep running until payroll goes live. Once payroll goes live, we'll be able to drop Advantage HR. We'll also need to keep NEATS running, and then we'll have to keep NEATS running until the payroll goes live as well. And then obviously once finance goes live, the Advantage financial system will be able to be retired. When I say retired, it doesn't mean that we're not going to keep them up and running. Previous conversations with the Department of HR is they wanted to keep Advantage HR running at least 6 months post go live for any historical data that they may have. And as we progress, we may keep it in a more or less mothball status to be able to extract information from. And then from the finance side, speaking to the Office of the Controller, their thoughts are to ensure that the financial system is up and running for a full year post go live, solely for the reporting, for the CAFR reporting, and ensure that their data is correct and they're able to do the reporting. So from that point of view, the individuals that are currently supporting the HR Advantage system and the NEATS system were transferred over into my organization last session, so that way they could start learning the new system. And when we retire the legacy systems, they roll into supporting the current system. The resources that are supporting the finance system reside within the office, the controller's office, and they had plans on what they were going to utilize those resources for when they retired the financial system. So from an operational standpoint, my biggest concern with any delays really always came down to the payroll system. Every time we run payroll, we seem to have lots of issues, which cause overtime work over the weekends to get them resolved so we can get payroll out. And so any delays from an operational standpoint, my biggest concern is to ensure that we're able to make our payments to our employees.
And Chair, just my last question, thank you for indulging me, is just, Mr. Nix, are there certain steps, or can you walk me through the steps you're taking to make sure there are no further delays so that we stay on this new timeline?
So with the last delay that was announced with Wave 1.3 payroll, the executive committee sent a corrective action letter to LSI outlining outstanding tickets for 1.2, which has the reduced functionality for recruiting to be resolved, as well as identifying the future steps needed to take to account for the impacts of the delay to 1.3 as it applies to 1.4 and 1.2. And then also some various other items just to really address the inconsistent quality and missed milestones. And also the request to bring in a platinum consultant to do a overview of the 1.1 and 1.2 configurations to make sure that it's on board. And then also included in that report was the replacement of their project manager, which we have an interim project manager in there that has yet to be approved by the Smart 21 team. Once that approval goes in, he'll go from being the interim to the actual project manager. And from what I've seen since the cure letter, there has been a improvement in the performance by LSI. They brought in more resources to help resolve the existing tickets, as well as a better focus on the timelines and the schedules. And so that's basically where we're at as far as kind of corrective action and working with the vendor to address those concerns.
Thank you, Mr. Nixon. Thank you, Chair Brooks.
Thank you, Assemblywoman Hadeghi, and thank you, Mr. Nix. Any other questions from the committee of Mr. Nix or LSI or the team that's with him today? And again, my apologies for scrolling back and forth through screens here. I don't see any further questions, but we will be talking to you again in February. And I would request that that LSI provide a status report for the Interim Finance Committee and a presentation on, we'll discuss where the status is, but if we are on the same track, or if it's accelerated, or if we've gotten back to some of where our deliverable milestone targets are. I would like to understand from LSI's point of view what that process looks like. And so, Mr. Nix, and when we see you back in February, we'd love to see a presentation from LSI as well.
Sounds good. Thank you, Chair Brooks.
Great. Well, thank you all for giving us that update on Smart 21 today. And with that, we will move to, that doesn't need any action, I don't believe. So we will move to the next informational item. And that next informational item is K11. And K11 is from the Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Child and Family Services. And if we have Mr. Ross Armstrong with us today, and I think he's joined by Ms. Nielsen to update us on that issue at the Oasis facility.
Thank you, Chair Brooks. This is Administrator Armstrong, Administrator of the Division of Child and Family Services. I'm going to provide some context and then have the opportunity for any questions the committee may have. This week, the American Academy of Pediatrics, the Children's Hospital Association, and the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry came together to declare a national emergency in child and adolescent mental health. They noted that young people have soaring rates of depression, anxiety, trauma, loneliness, and suicidality. Among other things, they called for increased federal funding, increased access to care, and to address ongoing challenges of acute care needs and workforce development. Nevada is not immune from this national emergency. Even as COVID seemed to trend in a positive direction over the summer, it became clear that Nevada's delicate mental health systems were facing their greatest tests. As the Division of Child and Family Services assessed our current services, we observed an increase in acuteness and seriousness of need across our residential programs. As this body is aware, we have tried different strategies over the years to fully utilize the space at Desert Willow Treatment Center. Considering our staffing challenges, the concerns about patient safety at Oasis, and a need for higher quality of care, it became clear to us that relocating the Oasis program into Desert Willow Treatment Center made sense. In addition to that decision, I've asked DCFS leadership to assume an emergency operating posture to be as nimble as we can be to meet the ongoing need. And Director Whitley designated Dr. Megan Freeman from the DCFS team to coordinate efforts across multiple Health and Human Services divisions. We've also submitted American Rescue Plan Act concepts for consideration to support children, youth, and families as we continue the long emotional response and recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic. Through this process of proposing to move the Oasis programming into the Desert Willow Treatment Center, we heard from concerned community partners about the relocation of the program, and in response to that, we've slowed our transition timeline. We're committed to operating 2 of the 4 Oasis buildings until the replacement services are securely in place. The end result of this proposal will mean increased inpatient and bed capacity for children and youth facing significant mental health challenges. The combination of increased need, increased severity of that need, continued disruption of Nevada's everyday normal, the difficulty in the general labor market, and non-competitive wages have merged into this crisis in Nevada and across the country. The concept of relocating Oasis into Desert Willow is not a fix that will fix all of the issues we are facing, but it was one area where the division could be nimble with the resources we had to face the historic challenges. This item was submitted as part of our commitment to be transparent with you, the members of the legislature, of the issues we are facing in children's mental health and our attempts to address them. With me, I have Deputy Administrator Susie Miller, who oversees our residential services, and we're happy to discuss any questions or concerns or feedback you have at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Armstrong. Really appreciate that. And before we kick it off with this, a few questions, I just want to thank you for being so proactive on keeping us updated. While there's no action necessary here, this is an informational item. It's very much appreciated that we understand what you're doing and the steps that you need to take before they happen. And really just want to thank you. So I will hand this off to Assemblyman Gorlow has a question.
Thank you, Chair Brooks, and thank you so much for being here. I just had a quick question about the fiscal impact, if there was going to be any, with the move from the Oasis home to the Desert Willow Treatment Center.
This is Administrator Armstrong. We determined there is no fiscal impact that would be greater than the allocation we've been granted for these positions in the legislature. So we don't foresee any scenario where the cost of this relocation would have us go beyond the resources we've already been allocated.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. I believe I have Assemblyman Watts has a question as well.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Armstrong, could you speak a little bit more about the staffing and capacity issues? So, in particular, it sounds like there's staffing issues in both facilities. We're looking to address some of those issues by getting everyone over to Desert Willow. And I think because of the staffing issues, there's been a lower capacity than what's lower occupancy than what's been legislatively approved. Can you explain how bringing everyone together at Desert Willow can, with the existing resources, can allow us to support more beds, and how if at all does this address the overall staffing issues that we've seen with these facilities?
This is Susie Miller, Residential Deputy Administrator. At the time when we started considering the relocation, Oasis had a 40% vacancy rate and Desert Willow had a 25% vacancy rate. In addition to that, due to COVID, we had an average of 10% of the staff that were either out with COVID or had been exposed, so they were unable to come to work. So when we looked at the potential of the relocation, at that time, again, I think Oasis was down to 3 homes being operated, and Desert Willow went from the 3 units that are funded down to 2. So the relocation was going to allow the acute unit to reopen and possibly have a unit dedicated to youth from 6 to 11, because that was a population that we were seeing high risk behaviors from that really motivated the move for this to make sure that they were safe.
Okay, thank you for that. I think that's helpful in terms of understanding the different populations. So just to kind of put a finer point on it, will we, is this essentially just allowing us to better serve some of those specific populations, or do we actually see the ability to get those vacancy rates down and serve more clients through this relocation?
This is Administrator Armstrong. I would say it's going to allow us to do two things. One, we can more appropriately serve the children that are currently at OASIS in the facility at Desert Willow. Deputy Miller talked about that young age range. We had actually quite a large number of those age range of youth eloping or running away from the facility, leading to those safety concerns. In addition, it frees up that building space for community providers or other entities to come in and create new services on the campus. So we would be able to serve the same number of youth in Desert Willow Treatment Center, or an expanded number of youth in Desert Willow Treatment Center, same number of youth as we can serve in OASIS and Desert Willow now, and then bring on community providers into the space on the campus. Having the team together also, I don't think we have hard data or statistics, but by having enough of those staff all in one place, I think we'll see reduced burnout with staff having multiple options to adjust what their day-to-day might look like, and to have support from an expanded team members in all under one roof.
Thank you very much, Mr. Armstrong. I appreciate that additional clarification. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the questions.
Thank you, Assemblyman, and thank you, Mr. Armstrong. I believe we have a question from Assemblywoman Peters as well.
Thank you, Chair. It's a really interesting issue and dynamic. We're seeing situations like this across the state, not necessarily specific to youth, but just in beds and mobilizing the limited medical providers that we have in the state. I am curious, though, if you can expand on what you were talking about. You mentioned a little bit about how OASIS Homes is going to be managed following the kind of consolidation you're talking about. But can you go into a little more detail about how OASIS Homes will function, how you'll be utilizing that facility, or what it will be doing after the consolidation into the Desert Willow Student Center?
Sure, this is Administrator Armstrong. So currently we have 2 OASIS cottages operating, and they'll maintain that operation until we have services confirmed that can move in and come in behind, so that there's not a drop in overall bed capacity. Currently, the state has been working with the local government, specifically Clark County, and they're looking at utilizing 2 of the remaining cottages, one focused on children with developmental disabilities and intellectual disabilities, and one as a qualified residential treatment program. That QRTP type of service is new under the Family First Prevention Services Act, which allows for a residential setting that has certain clinical components to it. So we're working through that process now. As I said, we're going to keep the 2 cottages operating as is currently, with the ability to better utilize the space on the campus as we come up with a larger vision of how that campus might be used to serve Nevadans.
So just to kind of wrap it up, we have 2 cottages that will be continuing to function with beds occupied. And then I believe there are 2 additional cottages, right? Or three additional? Those at this point are kind of stagnant until we figure out a path forward for that facility?
Correct. Yes. This is Susie Miller. So they're available, again, for them to look at repurposing and bringing in a provider. But at this point, the 2 homes, 10 to 11 beds, will be maintained by OASIS.
You have sorry, Chairman, if I may just follow up real quick. Thank you. Do you have a timeline for what that may look like on the discussion side of how we'll put those back into rotation with some kind of utility?
This is Administrator Armstrong. We don't have a specific timeline today. We do know that there is strong interest from the county on 2 of the buildings, and then we would need to explore and match up with what we determine is the need for services with providers to come into those OASIS buildings that we will continue to operate until we have someone secured. So there's not interest. I mean, there's not interest, but there's not like a confirmed plan for those 2 that we're operating now at this time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. Do we have any questions, any other questions for Armstrong or the team? All right, I don't, we do. Assemblywoman Gorlow, and then right after that.
Sorry, thank you, Chair Brooks, for indulging me with another question. One of the things I'm hearing a lot about is the shortage of staff. What kind of staff are we looking at? Are they like RNs, social workers, therapists? And what kind of education level does it require for those staff members that we're lacking? So maybe we could look at some plans to work with people on getting into those type of positions.
This is Susie Miller. We use mental health technicians in the hospital and both at OASIS. We are strongly looking for RNs in the hospital. They are JACO certified, so they have to use psychiatric nurses versus LPNs. We have mental health counselors. We have openings for those positions as well. And in the OASIS program, there are treatment home providers. So mental health technicians, we actually offer them the opportunity to take classes at community college. So they don't require existing education, but we provide the opportunity for them to gain their certification while they are employed, and allows them to go from a mental health technician 1 to 2 to 3 as they complete their education or the classes. And right now, really, the nursing shortage is huge and significant because that with the PRTF, it requires nursing staff, and certainly as well as the hospital. So you can't operate units or facilities without the nursing. So that is our main challenge with the tech positions right behind there.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. And I believe Assemblywoman Moreno has a question as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you, Mr. Armstrong, for the presentation explanation of the situation that we're in. I agree with you. This is an emergency situation that we're facing as a state. And here in Clark County yesterday, there was a protest at Child Haven because we're utilizing that facility in a way that it's truly not licensed to be used. So I would request that this committee be kept informed at each one of our IFC meetings as to where we are, because it is an emergency situation in our state. So Mr. Chair, if I could do that, that we get an update of where we are with the situation and try to get the staffing that we need, utilize whatever funding we need to utilize to help us get out of the situation.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. I agree. And do we have any other questions from anyone else on the committee? So I would like to echo what Assemblywoman Moreno said, and also thank you, Mr. Armstrong, and thank you for your entire team for trying to tackle this issue and all the work that you do on a day-to-day basis, but trying to tackle this issue and dealing with these shortages and making it work. And also, I want to thank you for being so proactive and communicative with our staff as well as with this committee on what you're doing. And as Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno said, could you please come back to the next IFC with a status meeting, with a status update on where you're at, and we're very interested in this issue and would appreciate to hear what progress has been made.
Mr. Chairman,
go ahead, Vice Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and I thank you for what you've said and what Ms. Monroe Moreno said. I know it's very unusual, but this has got a lot of players in it, and this includes Clark County because the way Desert Willow and Oasis and the other two buildings could possibly be picked up. I know it's very unusual to invite a local entity in when we do one of these conversations, but I think it would give the committee a better frame of reference on what Clark County's trying to do in this working with the state, with Desert Willow and Oasis. So if we could check into how we could go about inviting someone from Clark County to participate when Mr. Armstrong comes back, so we can get the full picture of what's actually, because Clark County's picking up part of it and the state's picking up part, and we're missing part of this. So it would be really great if we could just get everybody together. I know that's kind of an odd way of doing it. If it had to be an informational item, if we would have to give them special permission, but I just think it would give us a much better picture of what's going on.
Vice Chair, I'll definitely coordinate with staff and yourself and Mr. Armstrong, and we can see what we can do.
Thank you very much.
And Mr. Armstrong.
Chairman, I just wanted to tell you, this is Kevin Schiller. I am on the call from Clark County if you want me to speak.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Schiller. Vice Chair, do you have any questions while we have them, or we could give them?
Well, and thank you for, this is very unusual, and thank you for the permission for allowing me to bring somebody, have him come in and do this. So Mr. Schiller, I know there's been some ongoing conversations with the state. We know that there are issues at Child Haven. We know you're being proactive in trying to make sure that these children have a safe, secure, healthy place to go to get treatment. Can you give us just a basic update on what's going on, where you are and where you think you need to be so that we can kind of compare what's going on with you to what we've heard from Mr. Armstrong?
Thank you, Vice Chair and Mr. Chair, for allowing me the time to speak. Just a quick overview. I don't want to duplicate what Director Armstrong has indicated around COVID and mental health. I think I am somewhat preaching to the choir with the committee related to deficiencies in mental health. That's been an ongoing discussion we've had for multiple years. What I would say is that COVID, in conjunction with staffing issues that are tied to that, in conjunction with rates, has all kind of led to a convergence of a perfect storm. Speaking frankly, from a county perspective and a parent perspective, there's two populations here. There's the population when I come to you and speak from Clark County Child Welfare, but I also speak to you from a community resource perspective. So the issue is, if community can't get access to needed levels of care and services, what happens is they escalate into buildings or programs such as Oasis or Desert Willow. If you take those programs and reduce capacity, and you don't have those community-based services, basically what happens is we're in this storm. So I kind of want to make sure that's somewhat clear. I would also echo Child Haven this is not a weekly crisis, this is an hourly crisis. So to give some numbers around what we're dealing with highly acute kids, we have intellectual disabilities, we have highly acute mental health kids, and then we have simply kids that are coming into our facility based on abuse and neglect that aren't demonstrating those behaviors that we're caring for. I would argue that we're doing this in a licensed child care facility, which is 4 levels down from the programs we're discussing today. So with that being said, that storm is needed staffing, medical, nurses, what you've heard today, behavioral health techs. On the county side, just to give you kind of a community need perspective, taking it out of child welfare, in a 60-day period, we had 25 parents come to us trying to relinquish their kids, not due to abuse or neglect, but because they couldn't manage the behaviors or the mental health. So in a population of 70 kids on any given day, it's 20 to 25 kids that have assaultive behaviors, acute mental health, and services. Now, fast forwarding to the state side and the collaboration, we've been meeting ongoing. We were meeting even previous to this absolute crisis. What I would say is the call to action is really around how do we address all 3 of those: community-based, but more urgently, residential treatment, both in a lockdown and a non-lockdown facility. I want to make sure I echo on the Child Haven side, we're trying to bring services into the facility. At the same time, I would pass my compliments on to ADSD and on the state side to Jeff Haig, who this week gave me an emergency lease for 2 buildings. Those 2 buildings allow us to have an incentive to get a provider and execute on a provider going there on an emergency basis over an 18-month contract to provide OASIS level services in kind of an unlocked setting. I think one thing we have to figure out in the levels of care is if we move an OASIS into a desert willow, we're actually reducing our residential treatment services capacity. So it's a question of how do you manage the capacity and get the most bang out of your buck in terms of that, and then recruit providers together. The last piece that I would kind of indicate is from a budgetary perspective, and in terms of that world, we aren't in the residential treatment business. So I want to make sure I echo, we have been working collaboratively because this is an emergency. This is an emergency to the population of all 3 of those sets of kids I talked about. And let's not leave out our staff who are in danger and dealing with behaviors that they are not equipped to deal with. So given that, I want to make sure I kind of emphasize we stand ready. We remain doing this. This is a daily, it's Saturdays, it's Sundays, it's Mondays. I can't emphasize it enough what we are doing on a 1-to-1 ratio to try to make sure kids that need higher levels of care are getting that higher level of care. And then I think kind of in the short and the midterm game is we have to talk about how do we get community-based services, because we're so lacking. Kids escalate up the chain and we end up in this circumstance. So that being said, I appreciate the committee giving me the time to speak. We certainly will keep you apprised of what's happening. I did want to, I think there was a couple questions tied to what's the timeline. So I wanted to kind of echo that. That emergency sublease for those 2 buildings is being reviewed right now. We got that this week. If we can get into those buildings, we have two providers that we would be bringing forward. One would be for an ICF, so that's the intellectual and developmentally delayed population. That would support that population. And then the second piece would be for a qualified residential treatment program, which would fit into one of the other OASIS buildings. So between those 2, you're talking about approximately 6 kids in each of those programs based on where we currently sit. So something is better than nothing. We're trying to execute as quickly as we can over this emergency period, and we certainly will keep everybody up to date.
And thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for the latitude to have Mr. Schiller speak. I know it's very unusual, but we are in an emergency situation. So thank you very much. I do appreciate it.
No problem. I love surprises. So no more questions, and we can move on to our next item. And so Mr. Armstrong, we'd love to hear back from you, but I think it'll probably be better in February. And then in December, I think that's too short of a fuse to get your any progress together to be able to submit and get on our next agenda. So if you could work with our staff to get on the agenda in February, and we'd love to hear some progress. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we'll certainly do that, Chair Brooks. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks a lot. Well, that takes us to our next item and our final item before our public comment, and we wrap up for the day. And that is a status update regarding the coronavirus state fiscal recovery funds. And that we have some an update, and we have some new information, and we have with us today Brian Fernley, who is the legislative counsel for the Nevada Legislature, and we have Susan Brown, who's the director of the governor's finance office. And I will hand that over to Mr. Fernley right now, and you can kick it off and walk us through an opinion that you shared with us.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. LCB Legal was asked to provide further information to the committee to explain the legal mechanism by which the money received by the state of Nevada from the coronavirus state fiscal recovery fund may be spent. That is the opinion that the chairman referred to, and it is has been made available to the members. As the committee is aware, the Federal American Rescue Plan Act created the Coronavirus State Fiscal Recovery Fund, which included an appropriation of approximately $200 billion for provision to the states to mitigate the effects stemming from the public health emergency with respect to COVID-19. The state of Nevada received approximately $2.7 billion in money from this fund. Because this money was provided to Nevada under a federal law, the expenditure of that money will be governed by both federal and state law. It is important to note that Congress, under the Supremacy Clause of the United States Constitution, has the power to preempt state laws. And because federal agencies are charged with administering and interpreting those federal laws, federal regulations and administrative interpretations implementing the laws enacted by Congress do have the same preemptive force as federal law. Therefore, where a state law conflicts with federal law or federal regulations or administrative interpretations, the state is going to be required to comply with the federal laws, regulations, or administrative interpretations, notwithstanding any of the provisions in state law. With respect to the expenditure of the money received by the state from the Coronavirus State Fiscal Recovery Fund, the federal regulations and administrative interpretations from the Department of Treasury will guide how the state is able to expend this money. Moving on to the state laws governing the expenditure of this money, the starting point is Article 4, Section 19 of the Nevada Constitution, which states that no money shall be drawn from the Treasury but in consequence of appropriations made by law. The Nevada Supreme Court has interpreted the term appropriation to mean the setting aside from the public revenue of a certain sum of money for a specified object in such manner that the executive officers of the government are authorized to use that money and no more for that object and no other. Thus, the term appropriation in the Nevada Constitution includes any authorization from the legislature, which is approved by the governor, to expend money received as public revenue from sources other than the state general fund or state highway fund. And that includes grants of federal money, such as the CSFRF money. Senate Bill 459 from the 2021 legislative session is the Authorizations Act that was passed by the 2021 Nevada Legislature and approved by the governor to provide this authorization for expenditures by various state agencies of state government for the 2021 to 2023 biennium. Section 1 of SB 459 authorizes the governor's office to expend approximately $2.7 billion in fiscal, $2.8 billion in fiscal year 2022 and $2.7 billion in fiscal year 2023 from the CSFRF for COVID-19 relief programs. To carry out the authorized spending of SB 459, the CSFRF money received by the state of Nevada was placed in budget account 101-1327, which was made an executive budget account by the money committees during the 2021 session and is thus subject to the requirements of the State Budget Act. Another relevant bill to the expenditure of the CSFRF money is Senate Bill 461, which essentially created two buckets of CSFRF money in order to comport with the requirements of federal law that establish different authorized uses for certain portions of the CSFRF money. Section 1 of SB 461 required a calculation of the amount of lost revenue as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. And under the American Rescue Plan Act, this portion of the CSFRF money may be used to provide may be used by the state of Nevada to provide government services. Despite this broad authorization to use the lost revenue portion of the CSFRF money to provide government services, the ARPA does itself contain restrictions, such as a prohibition against depositing CSFRF money in a state pension plan. And the State Treasury Department has concluded that there are other restrictions, including that the use of the CSFRF money to provide government services would not include replenishing financial reserves in a rainy day account. Thus, the portion of the CSFRF money that was calculated to be lost revenue could not end up in replenishing the state rainy day account. After the adjournment of the 2021 session, the Governor's Finance Office, in consultation with the Assembly Fiscal Analyst and Senate Fiscal Analyst, calculated an amount of $1.086 billion as lost revenue that the state of Nevada could spend for the provision of government services in accordance with the Federal American Recovery Plan Act and the regulations and administrative interpretations to implement that act. SB 461 required this lost revenue amount to be transferred to the state general fund. By state statute and accounting policy, the state general fund is used to receive all revenues and account for all expenditures not otherwise required to be accounted for in another fund. And the state general fund contains both money that is restricted for a particular use and money that is unrestricted because it has not been appropriated or authorized for use and is thus available to the legislature to be appropriated. According to the state controller's policies and procedures that implement the state accounting procedures law, unrestricted revenue is revenue which does not meet the definition of restricted revenue, and restricted revenue is a financial resource that is subject to constraints imposed by law. According to these definitions, all of the CSFRF money received by the state of Nevada, including the lost revenue CSFRF money, must be characterized as authorized and restricted revenue because it was authorized for expenditure in the Authorizations Act. As I mentioned, Section 1 of that act authorizes the governor's office to spend the entire amount of the CSFRF money for COVID relief programs over the next 2 fiscal years. And because this CSFRF money is not part of the unrestricted balance of the state general fund, it is not eligible to be transferred to the rainy day account pursuant to the calculation performed under NRS 353.288. And that is consistent with the federal law and administrative interpretations that prohibit the lost revenue portion from being used to replenish a rainy day account. As I mentioned earlier, the entire amount of CSFRF money was authorized for expenditure in the Authorizations Act that was passed by the legislature and approved by the governor. And the entire amount of this money, to my understanding, is in budget account 101-1327 in a reserve allotment. Although the lost revenue portion was separated out by SB 461 because it has different federal restrictions on its use, the lost revenue portion is authorized for expenditure by the Authorizations Act because that amount is included in the Authorizations Act. The entire amount of the CSFRF money was included in the authorized expenditures. To transfer the CSFRF money out of the reserve allotment in budget account 101-1327, Section 5 of the Authorizations Act would require compliance with NRS 353.150 to 353.246, which would include compliance with the work program revision process. Thus, because the entire amount of the CSFRF money was authorized for expenditure in the Authorizations Act, the CSFRF money, including the lost revenue portion, would be transferred out of the reserve allotments in budget account 101-1327 for expenditure through the process of approving work program revisions, which would include the IFC approval for, or the submission to IFC and IFC consideration of work program revisions that met the threshold for the submission of work program revisions to the IFC. So that is a summary of the opinion issued by the legal division concerning the mechanism by which the CSFRF money may be spent, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Fernley. Do you have any questions from the committee for Mr. Fernley on this opinion? Assemblywoman Tolles.
Thank you. Since I asked for the question in our last gathering, I really appreciate the response. And so just to put it in the simplest layperson language, we are authorized to expend these funds through work programs through IFC, and we are not required to have to come together as an entire legislative body to approve the spending of those funds, correct?
That is correct. Because of the money was authorized for expenditure in the Authorizations Act, it can be expended through the work program revision process.
Great. Just wanted to make sure that was abundantly clear. Thank you.
And I do not see any other questions. So build upon Assemblywoman Toll's question. So if there were to be a specific expenditure that wasn't an already approved expenditure, then it would require a active legislation, therefore requiring a session or a special session. But if it was already approved expenditure and it was just going to be modified, it could be modified through the work program process. Is that correct? Am I understanding that correct?
I think the way to answer that is that SB 459 authorizes the expenditure of the entire amount. And that amount is in the budget account 1327, and it could be transferred to other budget accounts through the work program revision process. So the transfer from the budget account 1327 would have to be to an existing budget account, a budget account that existed in the state budget. But it would be a question of whether expenditures or proposed expenditures could be made by moving it to an existing budget account.
Thank you. Thank you for that clarifying answer. And do we have any other questions for Brian or Mr. Fernley, excuse me? All right, I don't see any. Mr. Fernley, thank you. And Mrs. Brown, Ms. Brown, did you have anything that you wanted to add to that or about the mechanics?
Sure. This is Susan Brown. Good afternoon, Chair Brooks and members of the committee. I'm Susan Brown, and I serve as the director of the Governor's Finance Office. And so in consultation with LCB Fiscal, in light of this legal opinion, we have reversed the transfer to the general fund and placed these funds into a separate reserve category within budget 1327. So they are separate from the other CSF RF funds. There are some of the amount that we placed in the reserve category was reduced by the expenditures that fall under the revenue loss category. So that would be the positions that were funded through the legislative process that were held vacant as a result of the pandemic, and the expenditures for education, and the $54 million for DETR for the upgrade to their system. So we have placed these funds, like I said, in a reserve category. So to move those out, it will require work programs that will have to go to IFC.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for Director Brown? I do not see any, so thank you very much. And I really appreciate Mr. Fernley and Director Brown, you walking us through that today and the work that you've done to get to this understanding that we currently have. With that, I think that is all of our business for the day, except for one issue. I want to remind I want to correct something that we said earlier today. Earlier today, we were discussing the settlement that the T-Mobile settlement with the AG's office and how that would be expended. And that settlement was as a result of a merger, and that merger is between T-Mobile and Sprint. And I think mistakenly ourselves, maybe in our conversations back and forth, and then also Ms. Adair from the AG's office, we used AT&T as the other party to that merger, when in fact T-Mobile merged with Sprint. So I just wanted to clarify that and get that on the record and clarify that mistake that we made. So with that, we will go to our last agenda item, and that is public comment. And so I'll give public comment. I'll give broadcast services a minute to check the lines and see if anybody's on there. And again, as with our original or earlier public comment, we'll like to keep all public comment testimony to 2 minutes per individual. And with that, we can get started.
Thank you, Chair. If you have joined the call and would like to provide public comment, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits, 338, please press *6 to unmute. Thank you, caller. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and may begin.
Good afternoon, Chair Brooks, and members of the hardworking IFC committee. This is Priscilla Maloney, Maloney, PRIS as in Sam, CILLA. Calling in this afternoon on behalf of the AFSCME retirees. This last agenda item on the LCB legal opinion is good to hear that we are getting clarification on the actual mechanics of dispersing not only the American Rescue Plan Act funds, but also the mechanics around the CSFRF funds from earlier, well over a year ago. So just would like to thank the hardworking committee again for all the work during this difficult time and everything they are trying to navigate. And it is the AFSCME retiree position, just in conclusion, that again, regardless of the legal mechanics of how we get there, there are legal paths for the Public Employee Benefits Program cuts that were taken both in AB3 of the special session of 2020 and then through the budget process of 2021's 81st regular session. There are paths to restore those cuts that were taken specifically because of the coronavirus pandemic. So thank you again for your time. Appreciate your hard work. We will get through this, Nevada. And just have a good evening. You've had a long day. Thank you.
Once again, we are currently in public comment. If you would like to provide public comment, please press *9 to take your place in the queue. Thank you. Caller with the last 3 digits, 338. Did you already provide public comment?
I did, broadcasting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Once again, we are currently in public comment. If you would like to provide public comment, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no additional public comment callers at this time.
Thank you, broadcast services. Appreciate it. And thank you to all the members and all of the staff and agencies that presented and the public that joined us today. It was a long day. We got a lot done, but I want to really thank everyone. And with that, we can adjourn.